Chapter 1885. Such puny God King's duo T would have been better off if he did not say that. A vicious light immediately flashed through Fairy Hao Yu's eyes in response to his words. She immediately glared at the 9 God Kings who were gradually regressing under her ability and revealed cold killing intent. If that's the case, I can only kill all 9 of you. Once you're all dead, that 9th prince won't know what happened here. Even if he learns what happens here, he won't know who took away the Void Cloud Flower and the Flower of Ways, Fairy Hao Yu said coldly. Originally, she did not come here with the intent to kill. She only wanted to take away the Flower of Ways, as it would be of great help in restoring her strength. However, Duo Ti's words made her want to kill them. Although the Blood Sun Empire was the eternal empire of the southern region and was extremely powerful, Fairy Hao Yu did not treat them with any importance at all. She was only worried about whether it would bring trouble to Jian Chen's Tian Yuan clan. It was exactly because of that she changed her plans all of a sudden, making up her mind to leave no one alive. Fairy Hao Yu grabbed at the space. A surging essence of the moon condensed in the air, instantly forming into a jade-white scepter in her hands. Even though the scepter had only been condensed from energy, it seemed exactly the same as the moon god scepter she had given to Yu in the past. Fairy Hao Yu gripped the scepter as a moon shone brightly behind her. Extremely bright moonlight wrapped around her, illuminating the surroundings and the mountains. She gently swung her scepter, and 9 beams of light appeared simultaneously above the heads of the 9 God Kings. Every single beam produced powerful pulses of energy and contained the power of laws that far exceeded God King. Each and every beam was destructive. The 9 God Kings from the mountains glowed. Powerful pulses of energy emanated from their bodies. They were unwilling to just die like this. Even though they knew that they were not Fairy Hao Yu's opponent, they resisted with their full power, striking the beam of light above them as hard as they could. Boom! With a deafening sound, surging energy formed a storm. The laws in the surroundings wove into a mess. The collision created an extremely shocking disturbance as if it was about to rip through the space in the area. The entire mountain range trembled violently from the strikes as if a huge earthquake was happening. It was like the world was ending. Mountains collapsed, and the earth ripped open into huge chasms. The mountain below everyone was reduced to dust instantly. The 9 God Kings' attacks against Fairy Hao Yu really did possess the power to destroy worlds. If this were a provincial city like the one in the Dong'an province, these attacks would be enough to flatten the entire city. Even overgods would not be able to avoid death. So powerful! Jian Chen stood in the air behind Fairy Hao Yu. The terrifying ripples of energy before her were unable to reach him. He only stared on in awe as he felt extremely shocked inside. He felt that with his current strength, just the devastating ripples of energy were enough to leave him heavily injured. Fairy Hao Yu stood as still as a mountain. A screen formed from the power of laws stood before her. No matter how violent the energy was, it was unable to even ruffle her clothes. However, blood spurted from the mouths of all 9 God Kings, along with pieces of their internal organs. It fell like rain. The blood of God Kings had dyed the space red. All of them were pale and haggard now. They were extremely injured. Fairy Hao Yu was so powerful now that even when they worked together, it was basically a futile effort. Fall into formation. A God King called out. The God Kings ignored their injuries and fell into a formation as quickly as possible. They poured their strength together. Immediately, an even more tremendous pressure emanated from them. After working together, their resistance against Fairy Hao Yu's ability grew stronger and stronger. Their strength that had been suppressed to early God King recovered to mid-God King at that moment. A world set by laws, sword of chaos and annihilation. The 9 God Kings bellowed out, and their voices rang through the surroundings. Between the 9 of them, a blinding sword chi silently condensed. It directly shot towards Fairy Hao Yu with great pressure. The sword chi moved extremely fast, far quicker than Jian Chen's linear lightning release. It whistled through the air and seemed to punch through space, appearing before Fairy Hao Yu in a single instance. Jian Chen's face changed. The sword chi simply moved too quickly. It was so quick that he could not even react to it. He was not even able to see the sword chi with his naked eyes, and he could only sense the pressure it gave off. However, Fairy Hao Yu's face did not change at all. She remained just as composed as before. She lifted a slender hand of hers and gently extended it forwards. Fairy Hao Yu's movements clearly did not seem quick. As a matter of fact, it felt extremely slow. However, when she completed all her movements, the sword chi that was just about to strike her had only managed to advance a single inch. This scene would confuse many people. There seemed to be a difference in time between the two, where the flow of time was different. Disperse! Fairy Hao Yu called out gently and extended a finger. Immediately, the power of laws that had completely exceeded the level of God Kings descended, directly wrapping around the strand of sword chi. In the next moment, the sword chi that contained the power of 9 God Kings dispersed just like that. The laws that belonged to the primordial realm had directly grounded away. The expressions of the 9 God Kings changed drastically. All of them stumbled backwards uncontrollably as they stared at Fairy Hao Yu in complete fear. However, in the next moment, they looked at one another. As if they knew what each other was thinking, they all used their techniques and tried to flee without any hesitation at all. Some of them used secret techniques to escape, while others took out teleportation formation discs. In my domain, I can't let you escape. You're done for, Fairy Hao Yu said calmly. As expected, all 9 God Kings became despaired. The ones who had used secret techniques discovered that they remained stationary, while the ones who activated formation discs did not see any teleportation energy appear. I didn't want to kill you originally, but I have to kill you now, Fairy Hao Yu said emotionlessly. Killing intent appeared in her eyes, and with a wave of her staff, 9 powerful strands of moonlight force engulfed the 9 people with laws that belonged to the primordial realm. This time, the 9 God Kings were unable to resist at all. They had already been heavily injured, and their strength had been reduced. Their souls were directly wiped out under a single strike from Fairy Hao Yu. From the beginning till the end, Fairy Hao Yu had not moved from her position at all. She could suppress the God Kings with a wave of her hand and managed to slay 9 late God Kings in just a few moves. She was extremely composed throughout the entire process. Clearly, she had not used her full strength. Jian Chen watched this happen with his tongue tied. He felt like he was dreaming all the way until all 9 God Kings had died. He struggled to believe that this was real. A few decades ago, Fairy Hao Yu was only a soul. Even an origin realm expert could wipe her out. She was truly ant-like. However, now, she killed 9 God Kings with the flip of her hand. Since when did God Kings become so puny? Chapter 1886, God Tier Heavenly Resource, Fairy Hao Yu, have you completely recovered your strength? Jian Chen stared at Fairy Hao Yu's back. He was at quite a loss. Before him, there stood an extremely great expert, which made Jian Chen rather absent-minded. This was because he struggled to connect the invincible Fairy Hao Yu right now to the Fairy Hao Yu he had met on the Tianyuan continent. Fairy Hao Yu turned around and stared at Jian Chen with her beautiful eyes. She shook her head. My cultivation level is only at early God King, but I've restored 80% of the power of my soul. I can use the power of laws from the primordial realm, which is why I could kill those 9 God Kings so easily. With that, Fairy Hao Yu suddenly gazed into the distance. Her deep eyes pierced through space and plunged into the very depths. She could see what was happening extremely far away. The disturbance we caused here is quite large. Quite a few people are hurrying over here right now. Let's go get the Flower of Ways and the Void Cloud Flower, said Fairy Hao Yu. With a wave of her sleeve, there was a terrifying ripple of energy that belonged to God Kings. Along with the power of laws that belonged to the primordial realm, they wrapped around Jian Chen and directly took him downwards. Jian Chen did not resist at all. Even though Fairy Hao Yu had not recovered her full power yet, her strength was still evident. She could be called supreme among God Kings with her comprehension at the primordial realm even though she was only an early God King right now. Maybe, even Protector Shui, who is ranked 9th on the God King's throne, isn't Fairy Hao Yu's opponent, Jian Chen thought. He could not help but compare Protector Shui to Fairy Hao Yu. In the past, Fairy Hao Yu had heavily injured the strongest God King of the God clan, Adriana, reducing her to just a soul. That had completely shocked Jianchen. In Jianchen's heart at that time, Shui Yunlan was the most powerful existence. She had reached a state of power that he struggled to even imagine. Many mountains in the mountain range collapsed, so the flower of ways and the void cloud flower the 9 god kings planted there were naturally buried under the rubble. Fairy, how you brought Jianchen straight to the very bottom. She erupted with her god king cultivation and began to clear away the surroundings, unearthing the flower of ways and the void cloud flower. Both flowers were snow-white. One possessed 9 petals and was surrounded by a white mist, obscuring the 9 petals at times. The other flower only had 3 petals. Complicated and profound patterns covered each petal. They blurred from time to time. Moreover, the patterns seemed to be still, but they also seemed to change at all times, resonating with the world and presenting the mysteries of laws. The 2 flowers did not grow in the soil. Instead, they grew on a huge jade platform. A powerful formation was carved into the platform, protecting the 2 flowers. The flower of ways has not matured yet, so its effects will be greatly reduced, but I can't care for that much right now. Even if it's wasting it, I have no regrets as long as I can recover some of my strength, Fairy How You said to herself gently. She stared at the flower with 3 white petals, and with a wave of her hand, it flew into her hand automatically. She tossed it into her space ring casually. Afterwards, the other flower with 9 petals landed in Fairy How Yu's hand as well. She passed it to Jianchen and said, "This is a void cloud flower. It is a first-grade god-tier heavenly resource. It's extremely effective for both healing the soul and recovering the power of the soul. Of course, the flower will be even more effective if it's refined into a pill. Unfortunately, there are just far too few alchemists who can refine god-tier heavenly resources into pills. They're just too hard to find." Jianchen did not hold back, directly accepting the void cloud flower. However, he frowned very soon and smiled bitterly. He passed the flower back to Fairy How You and said, "Fairy How You, the formation on it has already reached the level of God Kings. I can't remove it." Fairy How You nodded. "The people are almost here. Let's leave first and find a safe place so that I can remove the formation for you. If they see us here and that 9th prince hears about it, it'll be extremely bad for you. It might even lead to a disaster. Wait, let me take away the corpse of this golden-striped silver snake. It's of great use to me," said Jianchen. He arrived before the golden-striped silver snake quickly and directly put the corpse away. Jianchen also rummaged through the corpses of the other god kings. There was only a single human among the 9 of them. The others were either magical beasts or plants. In the end, the God King level plant cores and monster cores obviously ended up in Jianchen's hands as well. However, Fairy How You took away all the space rings on the God Kings. She wanted to use the resources in there to recover her strength as soon as possible. After all that, Fairy How You waved her sleeve. She made the air in the surroundings churn. The laws at the primordial realm descended and erased Jianchen's presence from the mountain range, leaving behind only her presence. Then she departed with Jianchen. Soon after Fairy How You and Jianchen had left, 5 figures shot over with lightning speed. They seemed to have fused with space, moving through the air silently and with great speed. They seemed to be able to traverse a huge distance in a single instance. In the blink of an eye, they arrived on the outskirts of the Een Mountains of Seven's Despair. Even though the 5 of them were god kings, they had all erased their presences and acted with a low profile. They stared at the very depths of the mountains sternly. It's the presence of the laws from a primordial realm expert. Has a primordial realm expert flattened the Een Mountains of Seven's Despair? A middle-aged man asked gruffly. He was wearing purple and gold dragon robes. The 4 other god kings remained silent. They stared into the depths of the mountains as they struggled to remain calm inside. These 5 god kings were the peak experts from the nearby divine kingdom of Datian and divine kingdom of Qingyang. 2 of them wore dragon robes and seemed dignified. They were the divine kings of the divine kingdom of Datian and the divine kingdom of Qingyang. The disturbances within the Een Mountains of Seven's Despair had drawn over all the god kings in the 2 divine kingdoms. Moreover, as time went on, more and more god kings gathered there. They came from the divine kingdom of 9 stars, divine kingdom of scarlet clouds, divine kingdom of Kaiyuan, divine kingdom of ether cloud, divine kingdom of Balaj, and so on. Basically, all the god kings from the nearby divine kingdoms had hurried over. Even the grand imperial protector of the divine kingdom of Pingtian had come. They all entered the very depths of the mountains. However, it had already been reduced to a mess in there. The shockwaves from the battle had basically flattened the mountains while the corpses of 8 god kings laid in the rubble. The presence of laws that belonged to primordial realm experts permeated the surroundings, giving off a great pressure. All the god kings who entered the place shivered in their hearts. Chapter 1887. Supreme Quality Saint Artifact. All the god kings in the nearby divine kingdoms had gathered here. They stared at the 8 god king corpses in the rubble, and all of them fell silent. None of them were able to remain calm at this sight. Their hearts were in turmoil. Before long, the god kings all dispersed. They did not touch a single thing there. Even for the god king corpses, they only looked at them from afar. They did not dare to approach it, as that could lead to some unneeded problems. At the same time, the divine king stood very casually on the tallest structure within the royal palace of the divine kingdom of Pingtian in simple, white clothes. His deep eyes were fixated in the direction of the Een Mountains of Seven's despair. He had already expanded the senses of his soul. It crossed through the entire divine kingdom of Pingtian and the divine kingdom of Qingyang, plunging into the depths of the mountains. This person is so powerful. After quite a while, the divine king said this sternly. His face was extremely solemn. Jian Chen's presence has completely vanished from the Een Mountains of Seven's despair. The primordial realm expert forcefully removed it. If it weren't for the fact that I knew already Jian Chen had entered the mountains, I definitely wouldn't have known someone else had entered the mountains beside the primordial realm expert. I can basically conclude that the primordial realm expert who devastated the mountains is the soul that appeared in God King Duanmu's dwelling before. However, I just wonder whether she has returned to her peak condition or not. The power of laws that have permeated the mountains has surpassed most primordial realm experts already. If she still hasn't recovered to her peak condition, then she is just too powerful, the divine king murmured to himself softly. The light in his eyes flickered uneasily. In an ancient mountain range within the divine kingdom of Pingtian, Jian Chen and Fairy Hao Yu stayed in a temporary cave that they had created. A huge luminous pearl was wedged into the ceiling, giving off gentle light that illuminated the cave. Jian Chen sat on the ground. He stared at Fairy Hao Yu, who also sat on the ground before him, or more accurately, he stared at the void cloud flower in Fairy Hao Yu's hands. The void cloud flower was similar to the flower of ways. It was planted in the huge piece of jade and slowly absorbed the jade's formation to grow. Formations at the level of god kings protected the flowers and the jade. Fairy Hao Yu was currently removing the formations. However, with her strength at the primordial realm, removing formations at the level of god kings was naturally a piece of cake. The formation was destroyed after 2 hours. If it were not for the fact that Fairy Hao Yu was worried about damaging the flower, there would be completely no need for her to spend 2 hours with her strength. Once the laws of the primordial realm had descended, she would only need a single strike to obliterate the formation. Jian Chen held the ether cloud flower and sniffed its familiar fragrance. He was extremely excited inside. This was a god-tier heavenly resource. He was basically completely confident he could wake up Kaiya with the flower. The void cloud flower is precious, but it's only used to nourish the flower of ways. The flower of ways is what is truly precious, said Fairy Hao Yu. She stared at him and said sternly, the most precious part of the flower of ways is not the terrifying essence hidden inside, which can be used to increase a person's cultivation. Instead, it's the comprehension of the laws of the world within the flower. It can basically increase a god king's chance of reaching the primordial realm by 50%. Moreover, not only is the flower of ways effective for god kings, but it can even assist infinite primes to a certain degree as well. It can increase the chances for a breakthrough between minor cultivation levels by 20%. As a result, I can basically conclude that the flower of ways is a treasure for the 9th prince to break through to infinite prime. Its importance to him is evident. From today onwards, you have to be careful about the ninth prince. Once he finds any traces that lead back to you, it'll be extremely bad for you. After all, I can't always be by your side. Fairy Hao Yu warned Jianchen seriously and sternly. Jianchen was still weak right now after all. He was completely powerless against the ninth prince who possessed authority in the Eternal Blood Sun Empire of the southern region. This was because the Eternal Blood Sun Empire was basically the ruler of the southern region. Jianchen nodded seriously. He also understood the importance of the matter. Afterwards, Jianchen remembered something. He took out all the overgod plant cores and monster cores he had collected from the Een Mountains of Seven's Despair and asked Fairy Hao Yu to refine the poison within them. The monster cores at the level of overgods were filled with poison. With his current chaotic body, he was unable to absorb it directly. He needed a god king to refine the poison inside with the power from their cultivation. Now that there just happened to be an expert like that before him, Jianchen would never miss the opportunity. Naturally, Fairy Hao Yu did not turn him down. She erupted with the cultivation of an early god king and directly refined the cores. The refinement lasted for an entire day. Only then did Fairy Hao Yu remove all the poison within the 6 cores. Only extremely pure and turbulent energy was left. After handing the 6 cores back to Jianchen, Fairy Hao Yu said, "I still can't refine the God King level cores on you with my current cultivation, so I'll leave them with you for now. Once I reach the primordial realm, I'll be able to refine them." "Oh right. I came across this piece of armor accidentally. It's a supreme quality saint artifact and possesses extraordinary defense. Just the armor itself can withstand several attacks from God Kings. It's useless for me, so you take it." With a flip of her hand, an exquisitely crafted armor appeared. She directly tossed it to Jianchen like it was garbage. Afterwards, Fairy Hao Yu bid farewell to Jianchen. She left by herself, planning on using the Flower of Ways to recover some of her strength. Jianchen sat in the cave by himself after her departure. He held the supreme quality saint artifact as his feelings became mixed. It had been painful for him to buy a high-quality saint artifact in the past, yet now he had obtained a supreme quality saint artifact, and it was a defensive one at that. Defensive saint artifacts were worth far more than offensive saint artifacts at the same quality. Meanwhile, the armor he held right now had already reached supreme quality. It was so valuable that Jianchen struggled to fathom its value. Supreme quality saint artifacts were treasures that were the closest to God artifacts after all. Jianchen sucked in a deep breath and slowly calmed himself down. An albumstone heart flower, a void cloud flower, 6 overgod level cores, 8 God King level cores, the corpse of a golden striped silver snake, and a supreme quality saint artifact. He directly sighed about his trip to the Een Mountains of Seven's Despair. He had benefited far too greatly. It's time for me to go back. With these 6 cores, I should finally be able to make a breakthrough with my chaotic body. It's already very difficult for me to find opponents among the level of overgods. If I make another breakthrough with the chaotic body, just what level will my battle prowess reach? Jianchen felt his blood boil when he thought up to there. He was filled with anticipation. Chapter 1888. Kaya awakens. Jianchen returned to the Tian Yuan clan and immediately entered a secret room. With a wave of his hand, the crystal casket flew out of the bright moon divine hall. The fist-sized 7-colored heaven-devouring beast lied on the crystal casket. However, it was different from before. It was not cultivating. Instead, it stared at Kaya's face. Its intelligent eyes were rather doubtful. At the same time, it was filled with anticipation. In reality, it had been like that for a very long time already. Ever since Jianchen fought the God King in the Een Mountains of Seven's Despair, it had been like that. Naturally, Jianchen paid no mind to the 7-colored heaven-devouring beast's abnormality. He arrived before the crystal casket and slowly lifted the lid. He also activated the formations around the room. Only after doing all that did he take out the albumstone heart flower and the void cloud flower he obtained from within the Een Mountains of Seven's Despair. Instantly, a heavy fragrance permeated the surroundings. Just a single breath was enough to clear the mind and make people feel extremely comfortable. The fragrance had been firmly isolated within the tiny room and did not drift out. Otherwise, the fragrance would have spread across the entire provincial city in an extremely short amount of time. After all, this was a void cloud flower that had reached God tier. The eyes of the seven-colored heaven-devouring beast immediately lit up. It finally looked away from Kaya and stared at the two flowers in Jian Chen's hands. It became excited as it revolved around Jian Chen happily while buzzing its wings. It was as if it was already certain that Jian Chen would be able to wake up Kaya this time. Jian Chen hesitated slightly with the two heavenly resources before he finally decided to use the albumstone heart flower first. If the flower could awaken Kaya, he would be able to save a god-tier heavenly resource. Very soon, Jian Chen fed the flower into Kaya's mouth. Instantly, it turned into a ball of energy that gathered towards Kaya's soul. Jian Chen stared at Kaya without blinking at all. Deep concern flooded his face, along with some anticipation. Time passed silently. Very soon, it had already been 4 hours since Kaya ingested the albumstone heart flower. She still had not roused. Looks like I won't be able to save the void cloud flower, Jian Chen thought before feeding the god-tier heavenly resource into Kaya's mouth without any hesitation. He could not help but think to himself, "You're clearly just a Saint Emperor, but you need so many heavenly resources for your soul. This is the first time I've ever seen something so weird." However, the void cloud flower is a heavenly resource at the highest grade I have ever obtained. If that doesn't work, I'm really out of options. Kaya, you have got to wake up. Jian Chen was eager. He and the seven-colored heaven-devouring beast currently paid complete attention to Kaya. However, at this moment, Jian Chen's expression changed. The jade talisman with a sliver of the power from his soul he had originally left in the Tianyuan clan had shattered. Jian Chen's expression changed slightly. Now that the talisman had shattered, it meant that the Tianyuan clan faced a huge threat. The threat was so great that it could directly affect the survival of the clan. Jian Chen immediately turned around and left. He appeared in the clan and directly charged for the discussion hall. All the elders had already gathered in the discussion hall. They sat on their seats sternly, causing the atmosphere in the entire hall to be rather heavy. What has happened? Jian Chen sat down on his throne and asked sternly. Patriarch, the divine kingdom of 3 cauldrons was devastated 3 days ago. 2 of their 3 god kings were killed by the commander of the 9th army, with only the divine king escaping with wounds. However, just then, we received news that the 7th and 8th armies of the Empyrean demon cult have been mobilized together. They're currently meeting up with the 9th army, and they're directly heading towards our divine kingdom of Pingtian. Mo Ling stood up and said sternly. Jian Chen stood up from the patriarch's throne. The light in his eyes flickered with uncertainty, and he said sternly, "This matter is probably far more complicated than it seems for 3 armies of the Empyrean demon cult to be mobilized together. It probably has nothing to do with the 3 overgods I killed a few days ago. 3 overgods aren't enough for the Empyrean demon cult to send 3 armies. Report." At this moment, a guard rushed in. He dropped to one knee and called out, "Patriarch, special messengers from the royal capital are currently waiting outside." "Let them in," said Jian Chen. "Yes, Patriarch." Very soon, a few gods hurried in from the outside sternly. They were special messengers from the royal capital who especially carried the divine king's words, so their statuses were great. However, after they entered the Tianyuan clan, all of them concealed their arrogance. The special messengers bowed towards Jian Chen politely. Afterwards, one of them said extremely politely, "Esteemed Patriarch of the Tianyuan clan, we have come under orders from His Majesty to ask the Patriarch to visit the royal capital and discuss important matters." "I understand. When you return, please tell His Majesty that I will arrive soon," Jian Chen said to the special messengers. While Jian Chen was discussing important matters with the upper echelon of the Tianyuan clan, Kaya's eyelashes began to tremble once again in the formation-ridden room. The trembling was unlike last time, which had only lasted for a single moment. Instead, it continued to tremble, trembling more and more intensely as if she was trying very hard to open her eyes. Naturally, the seven-colored heaven-devouring beast sensed this, as it had always been paying attention to Kaya. It cried out happily and constantly revolved around the crystal casket. It was in high spirits. Finally, Kaya opened her eyes slowly. What kind of eyes were they? If Jianchen saw Kaya's eyes, he definitely would have doubted whether the person before him was Kaya or not. This was because the eyes were cold and merciless. They were terrifyingly frigid, as if she did not possess any emotion at all. Inside, there was even indifference towards life. It was like an invincible, supreme ruler that controlled the universe, looking down at the lives in the world, viewing them all as ants. The seven-colored heaven-devouring beast stopped flying. It remained in the same position as before, except an invisible energy had frozen it in space and completely immobilized it. The origin energy and the ripples in space within the room were frozen as well. At that moment, the time in the secret room where Kaya stayed seemed to have come to a stop. Everything stopped changing, as if the scene had become frozen for eternity. At the same time, in outer space beyond the tremendous cloud plane, far beyond the range of what godhood experts could sense, extremely terrifying laws silently condensed. The laws were so powerful that they seemed to be able to replace the laws of the world and represent the will of the world. As a matter of fact, its appearance formed a huge disturbance to all 3,000 laws of the world. All the ancient existences in the super-organizations within the 5 regions of the cloud plane roused from their cultivation. They raised their heads towards outer space as shock filled their faces. What terrifying power of laws! It has basically reached the limit. Even the other laws have become suppressed and disturbed. Who's this? Since when did the cloud plane possess such a powerful figure? What terrifying power of laws! It has basically reached the limit. Even the other laws have become suppressed and disturbed. Who's this? Since when did the cloud plane possess such a powerful figure? These are heavenly laws. Anyone who can achieve something as great as this in terms of laws has basically fused with the laws of the world. They represent the world. Who is it that has reached that level of cultivation? This person is so powerful. With my abilities, I can only sense the power of laws in space. I can't find the person at all. All the ancient existences who had been around for who knows how long from the super-organizations in the 5 regions of the cloud plane cried out at that moment. All of their eyes were filled with angst as their hearts churned. Along with those emotions was a desire to stand at such a level. At the same time, countless powerful senses of the soul spread across the 5 regions of the cloud plane from various places. Every single one of them could engulf the entire cloud plane. The range that was covered was simply shocking. However, even though the ancient existences managed to cover the entire cloud plane in just a single instance, they failed to find the person. Aside from the frightening power of laws that charged up in outer space, they did not even manage to detect the presence of this person at all. The terrifying senses of the soul from these ancient existences were extremely well hidden. As a result, very few peak experts discovered the senses. Even infinite primes were unable to sense it at all. Kaya's body slowly hovered into the air within the secret room of the Tianyuan clan. Her cold, emotionless eyes seemed to have shards of light drifting around and changing. In that short instance, she understood her past life. At that moment, she suddenly looked backwards. The inscriptions of the laws of the world seemed to flicker in her eyes. She seemed to have fused with the world, becoming a part of the laws of the world. She was able to learn the past and future with a single glance. She saw everything she had gone through while she was unconscious. She saw Jianchen carry her crystal casket all the way from the Tianyuan continent to the saint's world. She saw Jianchen leave her in the bright moon divine hall as he struggled all by himself in the saint's world, fighting difficult, bloody battles. She also saw how Jianchen had almost lost his life when he directly entered the very depths of the Yin Mountains of Seven's despair in order to wake her up with the void cloud flower. Kaya's gaze became cold and emotionless once again. Her face was cold, without any emotion at all. She gazed through the room and directly saw Jianchen, who was hosting a meeting in the discussion hall. "Since you've assisted me, I should gift you a huge fortune. Unfortunately, you're with the immortals' world and you obtain the twin swords, Kaya murmured softly. At that moment, her voice had already changed completely. It was no longer the same as before. Instead, it was extremely strange. Her voice seemed to contain all the sounds in the world. It sounded male if someone believed it to be male. It sounded female if someone believed it to be female. As a matter of fact, if someone believed it to be the cries of birds and beasts, it would sound like the cries of birds and beasts. This was because all the sounds in the world were contained in the short sentence she had just spoken. Whatever. Since you have formed karmic ties with my reincarnation, I'll leave this reincarnation behind so that she can resolve all the ties you have formed. From now onwards, this reincarnation has nothing to do with me anymore, Kaya murmured to herself. As she said that, an extremely powerful ball of light hovered out of her forehead. It was a soul and it formed a hazy figure. The light of the world surrounded the figure, so it was impossible to tell whether they were male or female. The figure in the light gradually extended a finger towards Kaya's forehead. After sending in some power of the soul that was basically insignificant to it, it removed some memories, only leaving behind the memories that the reincarnation should have possessed. Afterwards, she looked at the seven-colored heaven-devouring beast and said, Kaya, I never thought you'd survive the disaster. However, your damaged soul went through samsara, and you lost all your memories. You need to find them yourself. The seven-colored heaven-devouring beast was trapped there. It stared at the figure of light with both angst and confusion. The figure of light was just too powerful. It made it feel fear, but it became completely confused after hearing what the figure said towards the end. Vaguely, it felt an intense familiarity from the figure of light. It originated from its very soul, making it feel extremely safe. At the same time, it experienced a sense of belonging. This feeling was the same as what it felt from Kaya. It was exactly because of this that it had followed the much weaker Kaya of its own accord, spending all its time near her. In the end, the figure of light extended its hand and gently brushed past the center of the seven-colored heaven-devouring beast's eyes. It sealed up that short memory. The seven-colored heaven-devouring beast closed its eyes and immediately fainted. A gentle power laid it down on the floor. At that moment, Kaya's eyes had closed as well. She returned to the crystal casket. At that moment, the figure of light suddenly vanished completely, having left silently. The formations around the room outside were completely useless against it. Jianchen finished his meeting in the discussion hall of the Tian Yuan clan. He announced that the entire clan would be on high vigilance, and the teleportation formation he had prepared would be ready to be used at any time. Once the divine kingdom of Pingtian fell, all the people of the Tian Yuan clan would leave through the formation. Jianchen immediately hurried back to the secret room after the meeting. The unconscious seven-colored heaven-devouring beast opened its eyes at that moment as well. It looked around at its surroundings in some confusion, and it seemed to remember something. It suddenly flew up from the ground and arrived before the crystal coffin. Right now, it had completely forgotten what had happened earlier, as if the memory had been erased from its head. Jianchen walked into the room from the outside. He looked at Kaya, who remained within the crystal coffin, and he frowned. He murmured, "How come she's still not awake? Is a void cloud flower not enough to wake Kaya up? It's a god-tier heavenly resource after all." Jianchen arrived before the crystal coffin and stared at Kaya, who laid there peacefully. He felt rather troubled inside, unsure as to what to do. What's a void cloud flower? However, at this moment, Kaya, who laid in the coffin, said something absent-mindedly. Afterwards, her eyes finally opened. The sudden voice made Jianchen's face jump. When he saw Kaya's eyes open, jubilance flooded his face. "Kaya, you're finally awake. Do you remember how long you've been unconscious for?" Jianchen asked happily. The void cloud flower really had not disappointed him. How did I fall unconscious?" Kaya was slightly confused, but gradually she remembered the past. She remembered when an Origin Realm expert from the world of Forsaken Saints took her away during the war. "Jianchen, did you save me? How long have I been unconscious for? And where is this?" Kaya looked around in confusion. Chapter 1890, Chanlong's Chance at Survival. You've already been unconscious for 100 years. In that time, a lot of things have happened. We're no longer on the Tianyuan continent. Instead, we have arrived in a higher world. This place is called the Saints' World, Jianchen said. He explained everything that had happened after Kaya fell unconscious, without missing any detail at all. This included the ceasefire between the Tianyuan continent and the world of Forsaken Saints, as well as the catastrophe with the evil spirit that had happened afterwards and so on. He even told Kaya about how he founded the Tianyuan clan in the Saints' World. Not only did Kaya share the same homeland as him, coming from the same world as him, but she was also a good friend of his. As a result, he naturally hid nothing from Kaya. Kaya fell silent after learning that so many things had happened while she was unconscious. To her, the 100 years had been a dream. She had no idea when it passed, and now that she had woken up, the world around her had completely changed. Clearly, she needed time to digest and accept this fact. I never thought I'd actually be in another world after I woke up, Kaya mumbled. She seemed rather dejected and sad. She could not help but think about her life back in the sea realm. She thought about her devastated clan and her dead father. She knew that it would probably be very difficult to return now that she had come to the Saints' World. Even if she could return, she had no idea how long she would have to wait. The seven-colored heaven-devouring beast flew to Kaya's shoulder as it sensed her sadness. It rubbed its small head against Kaya's cheek gently, trying to comfort Kaya in its own way. "Thank you for saving me, Jianchen. I want some time by myself," Kaya said to Jianchen. Her voice was very gentle, and it possessed a faint sense of sadness. Jianchen nodded. He did not disturb Kaya any longer, leaving the secret room. At the same time, in the extremely distant Heavenly Moon Empire, a white-robed old man with white hair sat in the best room within an inn in the imperial capital. He held and studied a palm-sized azure disk. Jianchen is becoming more and more powerful. There's probably very few people who can match his rate of progress. At this rate, he'll reach God King even sooner than me. The Heavenly Moon Empire isn't small, but it's just too close to the divine kingdom of Pingtian. Looks like I have to travel further away or even leave the cloud plain, the old man murmured to himself as he sat on his bed. He seemed slightly worried. The old man was Master Chanlong. With Master Chanlong's abilities, even if Jianchen was more powerful than him, there was no reason for him to fear Jianchen so much. At most, he could just find an organization to join and use them to eliminate Jianchen. It was nothing difficult to him. However, in the past few years, the trapped soul had constantly mentioned that it could see the future, and it could see the moment when Jianchen killed him. If it were someone else and not the trapped soul, Master Chanlong would have never believed it. He would snicker at them instead. However, in all these years, he gradually discovered that the soul really did seem to be able to tell the future. He truly experienced everything it had once mentioned in the past, which gradually affected Master Chanlong's head, making him believe that he really was doomed. Even if he joined a powerful organization, he would still die to Jianchen. As a result, Master Chanlong only hoped to be further away from Jianchen right now. He wished to avoid this calamity. This was all because everything that the trapped soul had said affected him greatly. However, now that the Empyrean demon cult is turning on the divine kingdom of Pingtian, I really do hope that Jianchen dies to the hands of them, said Master Chanlong. Old man Chanlong, quit dreaming. I can see countless karmic ties Jianchen has with the Empyrean demon cult. It's so complicated that it has exceeded anyone's imaginations. The Empyrean demon cult is both a blessing and a curse to Jianchen. Keep dreaming if you want Jianchen to die to the Empyrean demon cult. I can already see your future. No matter how hard you try, you won't be able to avoid death, said the trapped soul. His voice directly drifted out from the space ring. It was still sealed within a set of formation banners. At this moment, the soul suddenly produced an interjection of surprise. It seemed to be experiencing a high, and it loudly said, "It has changed, it has changed. There's a change. Old man Chanlong, go to the Dong'an province of the divine kingdom of Pingtian. I can see a chance at survival for you. It's your only hope, so don't miss it." Shiyu currently stood within the sea of flowers in the gardens of the Tianyuan clan. Her lonely and black figure seemed to possess a trace of sadness. She tightly held a jade pendant that was only 3 fingers wide. The jade pendant was made from some unknown material. It was extremely tough, and its design was extremely exquisite. It depicted a dragon and phoenix while the 2 words, Shiyu, were carved into its center. Shiyu always carried this jade pendant with her. To her, it was the most important object in her life. In the past few years, she took it out frequently and stood in a daze in a quiet place where no one could disturb her. She did not think of anything, remaining in a daze quietly. She had not been born into the Mo clan. When she was young, the patriarch of the Mo clan had found her outside. She was only a newly born infant back then. Even until now, Shiyu still had no idea who her true parents were and whether they were still alive in the world or not. There was only the jade pendant that was extremely likely to be left behind by her parents. Her name, Shiyu, came from the jade pendant as well. What are you thinking about? When Shiyu returned to her senses, a familiar voice rang out. Jianchen had already arrived beside her at a certain time, and he was staring at the jade pendant in her hand curiously. Patriarch, Shiyu responded politely, but she seemed to be in low spirits. Can I see the jade pendant you're holding? Jianchen asked. Shiyu hesitated lightly before giving the pendant to Jianchen. Jianchen took the pendant and examined it in his hand. His face gradually grew stern. Shiyu said in low spirits, My foster father said that when he found me outside, this jade pendant was the only thing on me. Perhaps it was left for me by my parents. Patriarch, why do you think they're cold-hearted enough to abandon their own daughter? This jade pendant is extraordinary. Although I don't know what has been used to craft the pendant, I can tell with a single glance that it's precious. Jianchen returned the pendant to Shiyu. He stared at her with mixed feelings and said, Your parents must have experienced inexplicable reasons for abandoning you. Maybe they were being hunted down by their enemies, so they had no choice. Jianchen sighed gently after reaching there. He said, In the past, I was the same as you. I too was an infant. I did not know who my parents were, and even until I died, I did not find my parents. Jianchen could not help but think of his former life. In that life, he was alone. He used the incomplete Azulite sword's law to practice a sword style that was enough for him to dominate the Jianghu. In just his 20s, he became the greatest swordsman in the Jianghu. Fortunately, the world did not abandon him. In his second life, which was his current life, he had a family, allowing him to experience the warmth of one. Shiyu stared at Jianchen in a daze. She never thought that Jianchen had actually experienced something just as pitiful as herself. She actually experienced sympathy in that moment. Jianchen dismissed his feelings. He took out a single origin-gathering flowers he had obtained from the Divine King and said, This flower can gather the energy of the world. Shiyu, there'll probably be a great battle soon. Use this flower to cultivate and become an overgod as soon as possible. With your talent and the comprehension of the laws of the sword that I've engraved, becoming an overgod shouldn't be difficult at all. She was already a late god overgod now. Ever since Jianchen engraved his comprehension of the laws of the sword, Shiyu's strength had soared. She could be described as making great progress every day. Chapter 1891. The Greatest Overgod Clan. After giving the origin-gathering flower to Shiyu, Jianchen left for the forbidden grounds in the clan. Shiyu held the origin-gathering flower. Even though she understood its value, where even many god kings did not possess it, she was not paying any attention to it at all. Her eyes were in a slight daze as she stared at Jianchen's back, all the way until Jianchen vanished from her vision. At this moment, the effects of the origin-gathering flower were fully displayed. A mysterious suction seemed to affect the dense origin energy that had gathered within the Tianyuan clan at that moment. It began to gather from all directions, arriving around the origin-gathering flower in Shiyu's hands. The origin energy around the flower had turned into a mist, as it was extremely tremendous in quantity. The people who had followed Jianchen up from the lower world basically all cultivated in the forbidden grounds of the clan. Jianchen had once spent much effort and resources to design the forbidden grounds. As a result, the origin energy there was the densest in the clan. There was a faint white mist in the entire area. The white mist was no regular mist. Rather, it was the materialization of origin energy once it had reached a certain concentration. In the Forbidden Grounds, Jianchen sat by himself at a stone table. He made tea for himself and sipped it slowly. He seemed to be at leisure, but his face did not seem relaxed at all. His brows would furrow and unfurrow from time to time. He seemed to be in thought as a sliver of worry would appear on his face from time to time as well. Something seemed to weigh on his heart. Now that the Tianyuan clan has gained a stable footing in the divine kingdom of Pingtian, it really hasn't been easy. I hope we can make it through the large-scale invasion from the 3 armies of the Empyrean demon cult, Jianchen said to himself softly. He felt very pressured when the 3 armies of the Empyrean demon cult advanced together towards the divine kingdom of Pingtian. This was because he was not alone. There were quite a few powerful clans behind him with many people. It had not been easy for him to set up everything in the Dong'an province. It would be best if he did not have to let it all go. At this moment, there was a flash of gold light. The golden-robed newbies suddenly appeared before Jianchen. He did not act politely at all, sitting before Jianchen by himself. He picked up Jianchen's tea and poured himself a cup. He said, "Brother Jianchen, you're a busybody now. It really is hard to see you in the clan. In the past few decades, I've only seen you a few times at most." Jianchen smiled helplessly. "We've all reached godhood. If we cultivate in seclusion, 100 years can pass in the blink of an eye and 1,000 years feels like 10 seconds. What are a few decades in comparison? From today onwards, not seeing me for thousands or even tens of thousand years will be commonplace." "That does seem reasonable." Newbies nodded in agreement. He looked at Jianchen and continued, "Though, I don't think you've called me, the great newbies, over alone just to catch up on the past together. There must be something else." "That's right. I've called you over today to give you something," said Jianchen. He directly tossed a space ring to Newbies. Newbies did not mind it too much. To him, Jianchen's gift was probably divine crystals or heavenly resources. However, when he saw what was in the space ring, he immediately paled in fright. He jumped up out of shock as surprise filled his face. "Oh my lord WWW, what is this thing?" "Jianchen, where did you get this?" Newbie's eyes widened as he stared at Jianchen in intense shock. Disbelief filled his face. It's actually so powerful. It's dead, yet it still has such a terrifying presence. I must have seen wrong. I must have seen wrong," Newbies murmured. His voice trembled slightly as he rubbed his eyes forcefully. He was tempted to stick his entire head into the space ring to get a clear look at it. In the end, after confirming it many times, he had to accept that what he saw was real. The item in the space ring was the corpse of the golden-striped silver snake from the Een Mountains of Seven's Despair. It was a late god king. "If I remember correctly, this should be of great use to you," said Jianchen. Newbies nodded furiously. He said excitedly, "It's not just of great use. It's basically a huge fortune to me. If I absorb his hidden essence, my bloodline will become even more powerful and even more terrifying. My strength will undergo an overwhelming transformation as well." "Jianchen, where did you get this corpse from? It must have been an overgod before it died at the very least." Jianchen shook his head. "It was a late god king before it died, except an expert that was even more terrifying killed it. I only managed to salvage the corpse." "What? A late god king?" Newbies was dumbfounded. God kings were figures of legends to him. Jianchen's face suddenly became stern. He said, "The background of this golden-striped silver snake is extraordinary. In order to avoid a nightmare, please absorb the hidden essence as quickly as you can and destroy the corpse afterwards. You can't leave any trace of it, or we'll be in deep trouble." Newbies understood the severity of the matter when he saw how stern Jianchen was. He said, "Don't worry, the great Newbies, will never disappoint you. Let's not waste time. I'll go into seclusion right now." Newbies left in an excited hurry. Jianchen was also filled with eagerness as he watched Newbies leave. He had no idea just what level of strength newbies would reach once he absorbed all the hidden essence within the late God King golden-striped silver snake. However, there was one thing he was certain about. Once newbies emerged from seclusion, his strength would have undergone an overwhelming transformation. It would have increased drastically. At this moment, Jian Chen's face grew serious. He stared in the direction where Shangguan Moor was cultivating before immediately activating all the formations in the Forbidden Grounds, isolating it from the outside world. After Jian Chen completed all that, an extremely powerful presence erupted from where Shangguan Moor cultivated. The presence was so powerful that it should have shaken up the entire provincial city. However, due to the isolation through the formations, none of the presence managed to make it out. All the people cultivating in the Forbidden Grounds were alarmed. They emerged from their rooms and stared in Shangguan Moor's direction. Envy and joy filled their faces. Shangguan Moor had finally broken through at that moment. She had broken free from the chains of being a god, becoming an overgod. Fantastic! Moor has become an overgod as well. Coupled with Shan Jian, the Tianyuan clan already has 3 overgods. Jian Chen murmured to himself excitedly. In the neighboring divine kingdoms, even the most powerful clans possess 2 overgods at most. However, after just a few short decades of being founded, the Tianyuan clan already possessed 3 overgods. Coupled with Jian Chen's battle prowess, which was enough for him to stand supreme among overgods, the Tianyuan clan had unknowingly become the greatest overgod clan in the region. Chapter 1892. Kai Ya's changed Shangguan Moor gradually emerged from her room within the Forbidden Grounds of the Tianyuan clan. Her tight, purple dress sculpted her perfect, curvy body while her black hair was casually draped behind her. Her enchanting eyes shone brightly, giving off a sense of charm. Clearly, she was unable to conceal her presence, as she had just broken through. When she emerged from the room, the pressure of an overgod radiated from her. From time to time, a powerful pulse of energy would gush from her weak-looking body, causing her hair and clothes to flutter despite the absence of wind. Coupled with her otherworldly presence, she seemed like an immortal woman descending on a mortal's world. The people from the Tianyuan continent immediately came up to congratulate her. Even Shun Jian had hurried over personally. The Tianyuan clan had gained another overgod. This was an extremely important matter to the Tianyuan clan, and it held great significance. After exchanging pleasantries, everyone dispersed, leaving only Jian Chen and Shangguan Moor behind. Jian Chen and Shangguan Moor held hands and walked out of the Forbidden Grounds. They strolled around leisurely in the beautiful, fragrant gardens as they spoke to each other softly. They smiled faintly as they discussed matters that only husband and wife would talk about. They also talked about the threat of the Empyrean demon cult as well as the future direction of the clan. Jian Chen, don't bite off more than you can chew. Once we can't stop the Empyrean demon cult, retreat with the clansmen, Shangguan Moor tried to comfort Jian Chen. She spoke with some worry. She understood just how unwilling Jian Chen was to part with the Tianyuan clan through their conversation. Founded in the Dong'an province, the province held great significance to the clan. It could be described as their ancestral lands. After all, they who had come up from a lower world appeared in the Dong'an province, so Jian Chen naturally possessed a unique attachment to the place. I still don't want to give up on this place until the final moment. Although I've already chosen the Heavenly Moon Empire as a path of retreat, the Tianyuan clan won't be able to exist as peacefully there as it does in the Dong'an province, Jian Chen said with a heavy heart. Shangguan Moor's beautiful eyes shone. She stared into Jian Chen's eyes seriously and said gently, "You're worrying about the Earth Spirit sect in the Heavenly Moon Empire?" The Earth Spirit sect is one of the 2 great sects of the Heavenly Moon Empire. Even the imperial family has to show some respect to them. That's more than enough to show that it's extremely likely that the Earth Spirit sect has a primordial realm expert at the very least. Jian Chen frowned. If I were all alone, there would naturally be no need to fear, but I have an entire clan behind me. If you go to the Heavenly Moon Empire and the Earth Spirit sect purposefully makes things difficult for you, we'll only end up on different sides to them. With my current strength, we're nowhere near their opponent. Jian Chen, Have you ever considered that by the time we become complete enemies with the Earth Spirit sect, you'll already possess strength on par with the primordial realm, and there would be no reason for you to fear them? It's impossible for me to make no progress during that time either, said Shangguan Moor. Afterwards, the zither of the demonic cry appeared in Shangguan Moor's hands. She stared at it with mixed feelings and said, "This zither is very extraordinary. Even with my strength at Overgod, I still don't understand it fully. Whenever my strength increases to a new level, I will learn the cultivation method for the next level from the zither. So far, I have a cultivation method that can allow me to directly cultivate until God King. If I have enough time, I am confident that I can repel the Earth Spirit sect." Jian Chen was surprised by that. He examined the zither of the demonic cry closely and said heavily after a while, "This zither is indeed extraordinary. I can't tell it's great at all, but I'm certain it's not a saint artifact. It's extremely likely to be a god artifact." Jian Chen frowned away afterwards, "But if it's a god artifact, I don't sense the special characteristics of god artifacts from it. Can I have a look at the zither?" At this moment, Kaya walked over from afar in a water blue dress. She stared at the zither. "Kaya, you've awoken?" Shangguan Moor was stunned as she said in some surprise. All of them understood that Jian Chen had taken the unconscious Kaya into the saint's world within a crystal casket. Kaya arrived before Shangguan Moor and stared at the zither for quite a while. She gently furrowed her brows and said, "For some reason, this zither is slightly familiar to me." Kaya furrowed her brows in thought, but soon afterwards, she shook her head again. She said, "Perhaps it's because I saw you use the zither on the Tianyuan continent before. I don't know why. After being unconscious for 100 years, I always feel like I've forgotten something, as if there's something that I can't remember. It feels hazy to me. It might be because your soul was too heavily damaged, which left behind some side effects," Jian Chen said in thought. Kaya was clearly only a saint emperor, yet she needed so many priceless heavenly resources to awaken her from her slumber. He could only interpret it as her soul was extremely damaged. "Kaya, I've prepared some divine crystals in there as well as a few cultivation methods. You can directly use them to cultivate until Overgod. Feel free to pick one that's suitable for you." Jian Chen took out a space ring and passed it to Kaya. "Jian Chen, I already owe you too much. I can't take any more things from you," Kaya declined. Her feelings were rather mixed. She discovered that she suddenly experienced a sense of conflict deep within her heart towards the things that Jian Chen had given to her. "Take it. There's no need to be polite between friends." However, Jian Chen directly shoved the space ring into Kaya's hands. Kaya stared at the space ring in a daze, and her feelings became more and more mixed. Right now, she actually felt like returning the space ring to Jian Chen immediately. She did not know why she thought of that, as if the thought was her instinct. It confused her slightly. In the end, she accepted the space ring with extremely mixed feelings and clenched it tightly in her hand. "I'm going to take a stroll in the provincial city," Kaya said gently before turning around and making her way out. "Wait!" Jian Chen stopped Kaya and gave a medallion to her. He said, "This is my medallion. Carry it with you. If you come across any problems in the provincial city, you can directly flash it, and it'll be resolved." Kaya accepted the medallion and glanced at it a few times seriously. Afterwards, she left silently. "Jian Chen, why do I feel like Kaya is somewhat different after she has woken up?" Shangguan Moor said after Kaya left. Jian Chen sighed gently. "To wake up in a completely foreign world away from where you came from originally, anyone would find it hard to accept." Chapter 1893, Visiting the Royal Palace Again. Let's give Kaya some time to herself. She's different from us. We came to the Saints' world completely willingly, while Kaya had been brought here by you unknowingly. She'd naturally find it very difficult to become accustomed to a completely foreign world. She might not even accept it. However, everything will change with time. I believe in just a few months, Kaya will become completely used to the Saints' world," said Shangguan Moor. Even though she was not on any particularly good or bad terms with Kaya, they came from the same world after all. In the huge, foreign Saints' world, they would find every single person who had come from the Tianyuan continent to be close. I don't know whether bringing Kaya to the saints' world was right or wrong. But if I didn't do that, it would have been impossible to wake her up, Jianchen murmured as he gazed in the direction that Kaya had disappeared off to. His feelings were rather mixed. However, he calmed down very soon. He said to Shangguan Mua, "The Empyrean demon cult is invading the divine kingdom of Pingtian, and the divine king has summoned me to the royal capital for matters to discuss. Mu'er, I have to go to the royal capital immediately. Do you need me to come with you? I can help you out now." Shangguan Mua looked at Jianchen. In the past few years, when the Tianyuan clan developed, it had been single-handedly supported by Jianchen on the outside. The other people basically did nothing. Now that she had become an overgod, she hoped to be able to share some of Jianchen's burden. Jianchen shook his head. "At a time like this, it's better if we don't reveal our true strength. It might be extremely effective in crucial times. I'll go to the royal capital by myself, while you stay and protect the clan, just in case." Speaking up to there, Jianchen took out the supreme quality saint artifact fairy Hao Yu had gifted to him from his space ring. He said, "Mu'er, here's a defensive supreme quality saint artifact. It's extremely powerful. Now that war is basically looming over the horizon, refine it immediately. The armor will be most useful when you wear you. You should keep it. You are the Tianyuan clan's pillar of support." Shangguan Mu'er responded softly and pushed the armor away. Jianchen smiled faintly and forcefully shoved the armor into Shangguan Mu'er's arms. He said, "You don't need to worry about me. My chaotic body is about to break through, so the armor won't be very useful to me. Mu'er, listen to me. Immediately refine the armor once I go, all right? I won't have to worry as much if you're protected by the armor. I'll be able to focus on dealing with my enemies." Afterwards, Jianchen left the Dong'an province and directly made his way towards the royal capital of the divine kingdom of Pingtian. Kaya made her way through the provincial city of the Dong'an province aimlessly, all by herself. She saw the people hurrying to and fro through the wide streets, saw the stores and stands that were filled with items on the two streets, and heard the hawkings and discussion that had mixed together. Confusion gradually filled her eyes. From time to time, she would raise her head and stare at the sky. Looking at the sky that was only a deep blue, her gaze seemed to penetrate it and arrive at the depths of the cosmos. The mixed hubbub in the streets and the people who moved through them made her feel a sense of great unfamiliarity. However, when she raised her head to look at the sky, she just happened to experience the exact opposite, even though it was supposed to be unfamiliar as well. She felt that it was familiar. This sense of familiarity originated from the very depths of her heart. It confused her. She was puzzled at why she felt this. Suddenly, she slowly raised her white, slender hand towards the sky among so many passers-by. She gently clenched her hands and pulled down. She had performed the action completely subconsciously because, from the bottom of her heart, the space seemed very weak. It was like she could rip through it easily, and she could unleash destructive might by just raising her hand. The outcome was very evident. Not only did she fail to rip through the sky, but she did not even create a ripple in space. Instead, her actions made her seem weird, attracting strange gazes from countless people on the street. Kaya did not seem to realize the things that were happening around her. She looked at her hand, and she became even more confused. At this moment, a thought grew stronger and stronger within her. She felt like she had forgotten something and lost something, but no matter how hard she thought and recalled, she could not think of anything. She even looked through her own life, beginning at the start and making it all the way to the present. She recalled all her memories and discovered that she had not forgotten anything. Aside from the 100 years she had spent unconscious, she could remember everything else she had gone through in her life. Kaya leapt up. With her strength as a Saint Emperor, she leapt onto the roof of one of the nearby stores. She hugged her knees and sat down, raising her head and staring blankly at the sky. The store belonged to the Tianyuan clan. Many people naturally believed she was disrespecting the Tianyuan clan since Kaya directly sat on its roof. From the store, an old man with a white beard immediately hovered out. However, he did not dare to fly higher than the shop. He stared at Kaya, who sat on the roof, hugging her knees, and bellowed furiously, "How dare you, back off!" However, before the old man could finish his words, an extremely dignified voice boomed in his head. A ruddy, sagely old man appeared in the sky on the other side. His long robes fluttered, and he possessed an otherworldly presence. He seemed like an otherworldly being. The old man was one of the elders of the Tian Yuan clan, Ando Fu. Jianchen was worried that Kaya would find trouble all by herself in the city, so after giving her a medallion, he got Ando Fu to protect her secretly. This was because Kaya was just far too weak right now. She had not even reached the origin realm. She was a mere saint emperor. It was naturally extremely dangerous for her to move around in the city with strength like that. The old man who had emerged from the store only possessed strength at the peak of reciprocity. After seeing Ando Fu, he immediately became courteous and did not dare to utter another word. He returned to where he came from. Kaya did not realize what had happened at all. Her head remained raised as she stared at the sky blankly. It was as if there was nothing else besides the sky that made her experience a sliver of familiarity within the unfamiliar. Jianchen arrived in the royal capital of the divine kingdom of Pingtian. Under the lead of 2 female servants, he was directly taken to the central hall of the royal palace. Jianchen discovered that there were over a dozen people seated in there. They all sat on the seats with their legs crossed and their eyes closed as they rested. When Jianchen appeared, all of them opened their eyes and stared at him. Many of them nodded towards him with kind intentions. He did not find these people to be unfamiliar. He had seen them before. They were the overgods from the divine kingdom of Pingtian. All the overgods in the divine kingdom had gathered in the hall, aside from Ling Hogong of the sword-seeking province. "Jianchen, you sure are great. You made us wait 3 days for you." At this moment, the seated Yang Kai shot a glance at Jianchen and said coldly. Chapter 1894. 3 armies. Yang Kai, the ancestor of the Yang family, had become a late overgod many years ago. Not only was he famed within the divine kingdom of Pingtian, but he was also well-renowned and influential in the neighboring divine kingdoms as well. At the same time, he was known as the most powerful expert below overgod in the divine kingdom of Pingtian. Both his status and influence had surpassed the commander of the royal divine army, who possessed similar strength to him, Xiando. Even though this was due to the fact that Xiando always maintained a low profile and did not desire to excel over others, many people believed that Xiando was not as great as Yang Kai, which was why he behaved like that. As a result, Yang Kai was as dominant as the midday sun in the divine kingdom of Pingtian. Only the divine king and the grand imperial protector were able to keep him at bay. However, his great fame had brought endless benefits to his Yang family as well. It allowed his Yang family to become known as the greatest clan in the divine kingdom of Pingtian long ago, allowing them to enjoy great honor. They were held in veneration and greatly respected by people. However, this all changed after the battle between Yang Kai and the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan, Jianchen. In the battle, Yang Kai, who had been known as the most powerful below God King in the divine kingdom of Pingtian, actually lost to Jianchen, the patriarch of a clan that had only been founded a few dozen years ago. Not only did Yang Kai lose his title of being the greatest below God King and his reputation, but even the Yang family was greatly affected. Their status was nowhere as great as the past. To Yang Kai, this was a disgrace, a permanent stain to his name. Although he was a late overgod, having cultivated for several dozen millennia, in no way was he a generous man. The humiliation he experienced after the battle had gradually transformed into a sense of hatred. He was no longer able to treat Jianchen like someone he could get along with now. Jianchen's expression remained the same. He glanced past Yang Kai indifferently before smiling apologetically. He clasped his fist at the overgods in the hall and said, "There was quite a lot of distance to travel, so I spent some time on the road. I've made you all wait. I deeply apologize." Haha, the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan is far too polite. Isn't it just 3 days? That's just a blink of an eye to us. Brother Jianchen, you're cursing me if you put it like that. I only arrived a little earlier than you. If you say it like that, wouldn't it be me who made everyone wait? The overgods on the seats all stood up after they heard Jian Chen's words. They all clasped their fists at Jian Chen with a smile as they spoke extremely politely. Clearly, Jian Chen's prestige was far greater than Yang Kai's in the divine kingdom of Pingtian now. Aside from Yang Kai, all the overgods showed him respect. On the other hand, Yang Kai's face instantly sank deeply when he saw so many people support Jian Chen. Jian Chen ignored Yang Kai. After exchanging pleasantries with everyone, he directly made his way to his seat. The seats were placed in 2 rows, one on the left and one on the right, with a walkway through the center. Every single seat had a name engraved on it. Jian Chen just happened to be seated at the very front on the right side. The seat happened to be the closest to the king's throne. Xian Dou sat in the second seat, right next to Jian Chen. As for Yang Kai, he sat on the first seat on the left row. Jian Chen just happened to sit in front of Yang Kai. Yang Kai glanced at Jian Chen coldly before closing his eyes straightforwardly. Jian Chen did not worry about Yang Kai. Yang Kai was not his opponent before, and now that he had become relatively stronger than before, Yang Kai was even less of an opponent now. Jian Chen crossed his legs on the large, luxurious seat. He closed his eyes to rest, quietly waiting for the divine king's arrival. Immediately, the hubbub Jian Chen's arrival caused quietened again. It was completely silent now. His Majesty has arrived. At this moment, a loud and vigorous voice broke the silence in the hall. The eyes of all the overgods present snapped open at the same time, and they stood up from their seats. The divine king walked in with a dragon's crown on his head and the king's dragon robes on his body. He did not walk quickly, but whenever he took a step, the heartbeats of all the overgods seemed to resonate with it. Each step seemed to land on the hearts of the overgods, forming a tremendous, invisible pressure on them. All the overgods in the hall held their breaths at that moment. A sliver of respect appeared on their faces, and they could not help but lower their heads slightly. Jian Chen's eyes shone brightly, and he also lowered his head slightly. He mumbled to himself inside, "The divine king is so powerful. Probably even the 9 late god kings I came across in the Yin Mountains of Seven's despair isn't as great as him." Jian Chen understood that even among late god kings, there could be huge differences. Any person who could make it onto the god king's throne, regardless of whether they could make the rankings or not, would possess strength on par to late god kings. Making it into the rankings only required a cultivation level of late god king as well, but the people who held the top 10 rankings possessed strength equivalent to early infinite primes. They would be able to kill infinite primes directly as late god kings, which was extraordinary. I wonder if the divine king has made it onto the god king's throne, Jian Chen thought. He did not know the exact strength of the divine king, but he felt that the divine king was unfathomable. Greetings to his majesty. The overgods below all bowed after the divine king had sat down on his throne. There's no need to be so polite. Please be seated, the divine king smiled faintly. He appeared amicable yet no less dignified. I think you all understand why I've summoned you all here today. Allow me to explain the exact strength of the 3 armies from the Empyrean demon cult, the divine king said plainly. Even when the divine king mentioned the 3 armies that were enough to cause the expressions of other divine kings to change, he remained composed and the same as before. Looking at how unworried the divine king is, he seems very confident that we can repel the attacks from the Empyrean demon cult. Are those ancient empires going to take part? Jian Chen guessed inside, as he always paid attention to the divine king's expression. The Empyrean demon cult has a total of 9 armies. Apart from the first army, the 8 other armies basically possess the same power. The commander of the 9th army is Yan Wuming. He's a late god king and is known as the Blood God Hand because he knows an extremely powerful god-tier battle skill. Once he uses it, the sky and earth are dyed scarlet red. He can condense a huge, red hand that possesses shocking power. Unless it is those who have made it onto the God King's throne, there are very few God Kings who can stop Yan Wuming. The commander of the 8th army is Luo Duo. He's also a late God King and is known as the Bloodthirsty Butcher. He's cold and merciless and also extremely bloodthirsty. He once charged into a divine kingdom all by himself and slaughtered billions of people. There was not a single person left alive wherever he passed by. The boundless, baleful presence caused all the vegetation in the divine kingdom to wilt. The commander of the 7th Army is Yaxi Lian. She's also a late god king and is female. However, she's a transformed nine-tailed fox. Although she's the weakest out of the 9 army commanders, she's the most sly and the hardest to deal with. She possesses natural sexual charm and is skilled at charming her opponents. Those who have weak willpower fall for her charms extremely easily and lose all rationality. Reaching this point, the divine king became stern. He stared at the overgods below him before his eyes stopped on Jianchen. He warned seriously, if you encounter the commander of the 7th Army, Yaxi Lian, keep in mind that it's best if you don't see her or listen to her voice. With your strength, it's very easy for you to be led astray by her words and actions. This is because even a few god kings can fall for her tricks if they aren't mentally strong. Chapter 1895. The Cult's Hall of Protectors, Jianchen. Heed my advice in particular. Yaxi Lian loves talented geniuses. If Yaxi Lian learns of you, she'll definitely pay special attention to you. As a result, you have to be careful, the divine king warned Jianchen sternly. Thank you for your reminder, Your Majesty. I will be careful, Jianchen clasped his fist sternly. He did not believe the divine king was telling lies. It would definitely be a huge problem if he caught the eye of the commander of the 7th Army. This was because the divine kingdom of Pingtian only possessed 2 god kings, while the commanders of the 3 armies from the Empyrean demon cult were all late god kings. Aside from the divine king who Jianchen could not see through at all, Jianchen was able to roughly sense the Grand Imperial Protector. Even if the Grand Imperial Protector was a god king, he was not the opponent of any one of the 3 commanders. The divine king continued, each army of the Empyrean demon cult possesses a set number of 100,000 people. However, any single one of their armies possess the power to easily crush our huge army that reaches into the millions. Just 100,000 people were able to easily wipe out an army that reached into the millions. This was definitely an astounding matter. Many overgods became extremely stern when they heard that. Even though they understood the strength of the 9 armies, they were unable to remain calm whenever someone mentioned it. Your Majesty, we won't be able to stop the 3 armies from the demonic cult at all when they come to invade, an overgod said painfully. A few of them were already ready to retreat. They would secretly move their clans away after the meeting and abandon all their businesses, leaving the divine kingdom of Pingtian for good. The divine king said calmly, it will indeed be a tough fight for our divine kingdom of Pingtian when the 3 armies invade, but that's all it will be. It won't be a devastating battle. The Empyrean demon cult won't be able to wipe out our divine kingdom of Pingtian because those ancient empires have already sent reinforcements. They're currently on their way. Even the ruler of the southern region, the Blood Sun Empire, is paying attention to the situation here at all times. The Empyrean demon cult has already crossed their bottom line by destroying the divine kingdom of 3 cauldrons. They won't let the Empyrean demon cult continue their advance so fearlessly anymore. What? The empires have already sent reinforcements? The Blood Sun Empire is also paying attention to the matters here? Your Majesty, is that true? Will the Blood Sun Empire send reinforcements to assist us? I never thought that the Blood Sun Empire would care about this matter so much. If the Blood Sun Empire steps in, the threat of the Empyrean demon cult will be eliminated instantly. If the Blood Sun Empire sends reinforcements, we can attack the headquarters of the demonic cult and get rid of them for good. Many overgods were overjoyed. What the divine king had just said was a huge blessing without a single doubt. It allowed them to see a ray of hope in the darkness. The Blood Sun Empire had spurred them in particular. They were the rulers of the southern region of the Cloud Plain. They were on a whole different level compared to the ancient empires in terms of strength. Before the Blood Sun Empire, even ancient empires such as the Heavenly Moon Empire had to bow their heads in submission. The Heavenly Moon Empire was only an ancient empire. There were a total of 6 of them in the southern region, while the Blood Sun Empire was known as an eternal empire. It was the only eternal empire in the southern region. Only Jian Chen's face remained unchanged. He remained stern with his eyebrows locked together. Even though he knew that there would be people from the empires who would come to provide reinforcement, they were only coming to protect the divine kingdom of Pingtian. Counterattacking or even ridding the Empyrean demon cult for good was basically impossible. Let alone the eternal Blood Sun Empire in the south, but even the Tian Empire that had been known as an everlasting empire in the central region did not have that courage. This was because he had learnt some absolute secrets from the God King by Tong Tian's side, Qin Do. Probably even many God Kings had not heard of these secrets before. The Empyrean demon cult itself was nothing scary. On the cloud plane, there were many organizations that could wipe them out. However, the great elder behind the demonic cult made the organizations who stood at the very top feel fear. At this moment, Jian Chen stood up and clasped his hands. "Your Majesty, are there no other God Kings apart from the commanders of the 3 armies attacking our divine kingdom?" Jian Chen was indeed very doubtful. All the commanders of the 3 armies were late God Kings, so logically speaking, there should have been a few early God Kings and mid-God Kings as deputies. In many armies, there would be generals of the left and right wings as well as deputy commanders. How could the Empyrean demon cult's 9 powerful armies not even have a deputy commander? There is indeed only one God King in each army of the Empyrean demon cult, and they're all late God Kings. The divine king sank into his thoughts and said slowly, "According to my understanding, the Empyrean demon cult has a hall of protectors aside from the 9 armies. Once an overgod in the armies becomes a God King, they immediately leave the army and become a protector. At the same time, each protector is a successor to the 9 commanders. Once a commander falls in battle, the new commander will be chosen from the protectors. Your Majesty, may I ask just how many people there are in the hall of protectors?" Bing Lu from the Yubing clan of the frigid snow province asked. He no longer seemed as old as before. There was a faint, healthy glow on his face now. During these years, Bing Lu's strength had clearly increased by quite a lot. He was now a mid-overgod. This time, the divine king fell into a period of lengthy silence. He only sighed after quite a while and said, "Probably even the experts from the empires won't be able to answer this question. However, you don't need to worry about that. It's enough as long as you understand that the Empyrean demon cult won't be able to get past our divine kingdom of Pingtian. All I require is your full strength when the war begins, so we don't get dirty looks from the people of the empires. I've said everything that I need to say. You all go prepare for battle." The divine king waved his hand and ended the meeting. After dispersing, everyone thought back to the Empyrean demon cult's hall of protectors mentioned in the meeting, including Jian Chen. Their expressions constantly changed. From how the divine king had responded, he clearly had no idea about the hall of protectors. Otherwise, he would never have remained silent for so long. "Looks like there should be quite a few protectors in the hall of protectors," concluded many overgods. They all became extremely stern. They've created a hall for protectors. Just how many God Kings does the Empyrean demon cult possess? Jian Chen wondered as he felt astounded. From the start till the end, no one mentioned the 3 overgods that Jian Chen had slain. Even Yang Kai, who resented Jian Chen, did not speak a word of it. This was because they all understood that the invasion of the 3 armies actually had nothing to do with the 3 overgods. 3 overgods were not worth a war for the Empyrean demon cult, and it was not why they had directly mobilized 3 armies. They had even received news that in this attack, the Empyrean demon cult had not just mobilized the 7th, 8th, and 9th armies. They had mobilized their 6 other armies as well. The 9 armies split into 3, attacking the southern region, the northern region, and the western region. Chapter 1896. Kaya and Chanlong people constantly poured in and out of the great city gates of the provincial city in the Dong'an province. A large number of armored soldiers were stationed at each city gate, and deities were watching over the operations secretly. As one of the 6 great provincial cities in the divine kingdom of Pingtian, the Dong'an province was also the base of the Tian Yuan clan. It was so renowned that it attracted countless people to come in admiration. Of course, Many people had obviously come to trade or avoid problems. They wanted to borrow the anti-violence rules of the provincial city to avoid their enemies killing them. However, everyone who entered the provincial city had to pay a certain amount of divine crystals to the guards at the city gates in exchange for a medallion. They would buy the time they could spend in the city through the medallion. Not only did the provincial city strictly forbid fighting, but origin energy was abundant as well. Cultivating within the city was much faster than doing so outside, and there was completely no need to worry about attacks from powerful beasts. As a result, many people were extremely happy with cultivating in the provincial city. Although some people would ignore the rules the Tianyuan clan set down in the Dong'an province and directly hurt people, such occurrences were extremely rare. In other words, it was still far safer than the wilderness outside. Today, Chanlong, who was known as a formations master, was squeezed together with all the people who were about to enter the provincial city. He wore white robes and completely concealed his presence, slowly approaching the east city gates with the crowd. Right now, Chanlong only seemed like an ordinary old man. He did not stand out at all in the crowd, making it very difficult to imagine that he was a late overgod and a famed formations master in the surrounding divine kingdoms. It was even more difficult to imagine that with his strength and status, he would actually choose to line up with the ordinary people when he made his way into the city. He could only set foot inside after paying up the divine crystals for a medallion, which was used to stay in the city. I've already entered the provincial city, and I've hidden my presence with a secret technique. Even if Jianchen is in the city, he can't find me. Where is my chance at survival that you were talking about? Master Chanlong strolled through the streets leisurely as he secretly communicated with the trapped soul. Master Chanlong's feelings became rather mixed as he stared at the scenery of the provincial city. Thinking back to the past, he had ambushed Jianchen here. He cast down a huge formation to lock down the entire city in an attempt to kill Jianchen here. Unfortunately, Jianchen sensed him beforehand and managed to escape from the provincial city. In the end, he engaged in an intense battle 100 kilometers away from the city with Jianchen. Master Chanlong almost managed to kill Jianchen in that battle, but at the same time, he had almost lost his life to Jianchen. Now, he had returned to the provincial city again, and his intentions were not to kill Jianchen but to find the chance of survival the trapped soul mentioned. Jianchen's talent was too great, and he grew too fast. Coupled with the constant mutterings of the trapped soul, he was gradually influenced. Old man Chanlong, you better treasure the last few years of your life. I can already see your future. You won't be able to live for another 100 years. Old man Chanlong, I can already see your forehead being pierced and your soul being wiped out by Jianchen. I can already see when Jianchen cuts off your head, he said. As a result, Master Chanlong began to firmly believe the words of the trapped soul. In order to avoid dying to Jianchen's hands in a few decades, he had hurried back here from the Heavenly Moon Empire. Master Chanlong deeply understood just how powerful the trapped soul was after what he went through in the past years. He basically possessed the power to tell the future. Everything he mentioned would happen in the end. The fortune of the provincial city is a mess. A layer of mist seems to cover it. I can only see that your chance of survival lies here. I can't see exactly where though. Old man Chanlong, it'll be up to your luck next. I won't be able to help you out, said the trapped soul. Master Chanlong said nothing. Before long, he entered an inn and reserved an average room to avoid attracting attention. He ordered some dishes on the first floor of the inn and began eating in an inconspicuous corner. Of course, this was all just a cover. People moved about in places like inns often. Such places were very convenient for learning about things. He firmly believed that if the provincial city possessed a chance for his survival, the city definitely would not be peaceful. Something abnormal or special would definitely happen. Master Chanlong's words and actions had become cautious now that he was here. He maintained an extremely low profile. He did not even show himself in public much at all, and he was not even bold enough to use the senses of his soul. He was afraid that Jianchen was still in the city and would discover his existence. If someone exposed the fact that he had entered the divine kingdom of Pingtian, the Grand Imperial Protector would hunt him down. Otherwise, it would have never been so difficult for him to obtain information as a late overgod. At the same time, Kaya wandered through the streets of the provincial city aimlessly. She would look at the surroundings sometimes and the sky at other times. Confusion filled her face. She had already moved around like this for 2 whole days. Of course, let alone 2 days, even walking for 2 years was nothing to a saint emperor like her. Just when Kaya walked by an ordinary inn, she seemed to sense something that drew her gaze over. She suddenly glanced at the inn and could not help but enter it. When a person entered an unfamiliar environment, the first thing they would do would be to look around subconsciously and observe the environment. However, when Kaya entered the inn, she did not look around to learn the environment at all. Something clearly attracted her gaze, so she directly looked towards an inconspicuous corner. To no surprise, that was where Master Chanlong sat. Kaya's gaze directly landed on Master Chanlong. She stared at him blankly as a sliver of confusion gradually appeared in her eyes. At the same time, Master Chanlong raised his head and stared at Kaya calmly. He was no longer able to shift his gaze after that. As a late overgod, he would have never paid any attention to a mere saint emperor. Even if the saint emperor looked at him, he would not pay any attention to them at all. However, the moment Kaya entered the inn, Master Chanlong actually could not help but raise his head as if it was beyond his control. His gaze landed on Kaya. What a weak level of cultivation. Strange. Who is this person? Why do I feel a sense of familiarity when I glance at her? Master Chanlong stared at Kaya as his old eyes revealed suspicion. Old man Chanlong, have you noticed that girl? Who is she? Why do I feel like I know her as soon as she has appeared? But I've clearly never seen her before. At the same time, the trapped soul spoke doubtfully. At this moment, Kaya moved. She arrived before Master Chanlong at a steady pace and stared at him in confusion. She asked gently, "Who are you? Have we met somewhere before?" As she said that, Kaya would look towards Master Chanlong's space ring from time to time. Kaya clearly experienced the same feeling from the trapped soul as Master Chanlong. The 3 of them felt like they knew each other. Chapter 1897. Jian Chen's return. Kaya's words astounded Master Chanlong slightly. His old eyes flickered as he stared at Kaya uneasily. His expression was rather strange. Afterwards, he furrowed his brows lightly and revealed his confusion. At the moment he saw Kaya, he had experienced an unknown sense of familiarity. It was unknown because he was certain that he had never seen this woman in his life before. Even when ignoring the fact that Chanlong had never possessed a true friend ever since he began cultivating, Kaya was so weak. She was only a mere saint emperor. Even if he did see her in the past, he definitely would not have remembered her. In his eyes, a person like her was an ant-like existence. Naturally, it was impossible for him to experience a sense of familiarity from an ant. That was exactly why it was strange. Not only did he feel an unknown sense of familiarity, but Kaya herself also seemed to feel the same indescribable feeling as him from her words. Master Chanlong was unable to understand why no matter how hard he thought about it. Moreover, the part that filled Master Chanlong with disbelief was that even the soul trapped in his formation banners felt the same feeling towards Kaya. As a result, the matter had become far more complicated than it seemed. "Who are you?" Master Chanlong responded with a question as he stared at Kaya. At that moment, even he, a mighty late overgod, became somewhat confused. "I'm Kaya." Kaya stared at Master Chanlong with a similar gaze, glancing at the space ring on his finger from time to time. Curiosity filled her eyes as she asked, "There's also something that gives me a sense of familiarity in your space ring. This feeling, it seems to be the same as the feeling you give me." Kaya's words stunned Master Chanlong. His old eyes immediately widened as he stared at Kaya in shock and disbelief. Naturally, he knew what Kaya felt a sense of familiarity with in his space ring. It was definitely the soul trapped in the formation banners that could tell the future. How can this girl sense what is in my space ring? Let alone her, a puny saint emperor, even god kings can't do that. Master Chanlong struggled to remain calm as he secretly conversed with the trapped soul. "Old man Chanlong, don't ask me. I don't know what this is all about either." I actually can't see through this woman before me at all. She's like a cloud of mist, said the trapped soul. Master Chanlong remained silently for a while before gradually calming down. He stared at Kaya curiously with mixed feelings. The sense of familiarity with Kaya grew stronger and stronger within him, unconsciously affected him. It caused Master Chanlong's opinion of Kaya to change silently. Master Chanlong invited Kaya to sit down. He did not put on any airs as an overgod and instead conversed with Kaya in an approachable manner. They were like old friends talking about the past. Just who is this woman called Kaya? Who is she? I clearly haven't seen her before, so why do I feel that she's familiar? The trapped constantly mumbled within the space ring as Chanlong and Kaya conversed. He scratched his head, but he was unable to think of any reason. Kaya and Master Chanlong became more and more friendly while the sense of familiarity grew stronger and stronger. They did not feel distant with each other at all. This made them both feel strange, as if they were originally close friends or something. Kaya, looks like you and I really are fated to meet. However, your cultivation is low right now, so it's very easy for you to come across danger. Why don't you stick with me for now? Take these 3 protective formation discs. Each disc can block an attack from a late overgod. Also, take this jade pendant with you at all times. I can come to save your life at crucial times. These high-grade divine crystals can allow your strength to increase quickly. Master Chanlong took out a great pile of things from his space ring and placed it before Kaya. Even Master Chanlong himself felt a sense of disbelief. He was actually gifting someone he had just met so many things. If it were in the past, he would have never believed he could be so generous. High-grade divine crystals were nothing to him, but the 3 formations discs that could block attacks from late overgods were priceless. It was extremely difficult to create each one. And the jade pendant was even more valuable. Not only was it a high-quality saint artifact, but it was also a treasure that could defend automatically. Once attacked, the pendant would activate by itself and form an extremely powerful light screen. If all of its power was unleashed, it could even last for a while before ordinary late overgods. Without any exaggeration, Master Chanlong had gifted away a quarter of his wealth. Yet, Master Chanlong just wanted to help Kaya with everything he had when he saw how weak she was right now. This was like how Jianchen treated his friends and family. Selflessly. He would always find a way to use all the resources on hand so that they could strengthen up. Senior Chanlong, thank you for your kind intentions, but I can't just take so many of your things without any reason. Moreover, I don't lack such items. Jianchen has given me quite a lot. Kaya thanked him before pushing all of Master Chanlong's things back to him. What? Jianchen? The patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan, Jianchen? The light in Master Chanlong's eyes flickered as he became stern. That's right, he's the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan. He's my friend, said Kaya. Master Chanlong immediately became uneasy. At the same time, a streak of light flew through the air outside the provincial city quickly. In just the blink of an eye, it had entered the city. Jianchen had already returned from the royal capital. He rode the startling rainbow sword and entered the city as a resplendent streak of light. I wonder what Kaya's condition is after these days. Has she accepted the saint's world? Jianchen thought of Kaya as soon as he entered the provincial city. He flew towards the Tian Yuan clan on the startling rainbow sword and expanded the senses of his soul as well. He engulfed the entire city in search of Kaya's whereabouts. With his senses at the level of late overgods, he found Kaya without any effort at all. However, his face suddenly changed and heavy killing intent instantly appeared in his eyes. He said coldly, "Chanlong, you're looking to die." Jianchen's direction of advance suddenly changed. His speed erupted at that moment. Sword chi permeated his surroundings as the startling rainbow sword shone brightly. He turned into a streak of light, shooting off in Kaya's direction with unbelievable speed. At the same time, Master Chanlong discovered Jianchen's arrival. He instantly became stern and an azure disc appeared in his right hand. It shone with bright, azure light as countless profound inscriptions flashed about. He held a set of formation banners in his left hand while the trapped soul became stern as well. Chapter 1898. People from the Earth Spirit Sect. Oh no, Jian Chen has discovered you now. He's extremely powerful. Old man Chanlong, if you say you had the power to kill Jian Chen or escape from him in the past, you're definitely not his opponent now. He really is a prodigy for his strength to increase so quickly. The trapped soul murmured. Its voice was filled with amazement. Even with the entire Saints world in perspective, there were only a handful of people who possessed talent like Jian Chen. However, the trapped soul frowned soon after, but it doesn't make sense. I clearly saw a chance for you to survive in the Dong'an province, so why did you encounter Jian Chen now? Where's that chance to survive now that you've encountered Jian Chen? Your predictions have been rather accurate every time, but you've clearly miscalculated this time. However, it's not too big of a deal. Even if Jian Chen's strength has grown dramatically in the past few years, I'm not afraid of him, said Master Chanlong. The powerful origin energy that belonged to a late overgod churned secretly within his body, rampaging about like a huge river. Standing before him, Kaya could not help but become doubtful and confused when she saw how Master Chanlong had suddenly become stern. He had also taken out his azure disc and formation banners. Just when she wanted to ask him about it, an extremely tremendous presence suddenly crushed down from the sky. It immediately caused the expressions of all the people in the inn to change drastically. Even the formation that protected the inn creaked as if it bore a heavy burden. It was like it was about to shatter from the tremendous presence. A ball of light shone brightly like the sun. It shot over from the distance like a bolt of lightning, moving extremely quickly. It had completely surpassed the level where gods could catch a glimpse of it. Only overgods could sense it now. In a short instance, the streak of light made a beeline for the inn where Kaya was. Kaya only saw a flash and a white-robed man appeared before her as if he had teleported there. He stood with his back towards her between Master Chanlong and her. Jian Chen. Kaya basically recognized the familiar back instantly, and she became surprised. Kaya, go back to the clan first. It's not safe here, Jian Chen said without even turning back. He spoke very gently, but he stared at Master Chanlong closely. He was cautious and on guard. He did not know of the relationship between Kaya and Master Chanlong. He only knew that he could not attack Master Chanlong with Kaya right by his side at the moment. Kaya would not be able to endure the battle shockwaves from overgods as a mere Saint Emperor. Master Chanlong, you're a mighty overgod after all. You shouldn't take a weak person as a hostage against me. Jian Chen glared at Master Chanlong as he growled. Right now, he was very worried that Master Chanlong would strike out first. He had no need to fear Master Chanlong at all with his current strength. As a matter of fact, under his full strength, Master Chanlong would not even be able to cast down formations. However, he would not be able to ensure the safety of Kaya who was beside him. If Kaya were a god, Jian Chen would not need to worry as much because gods would be able to resist the battle shockwaves. However, Kaya was only a Saint Emperor right now. Saint Emperors were no different from mortals before overgods. Jian Chen. You sure think highly of yourself, Master Chanlong sneered. Yeah, kiddo. You sure think highly of yourself. Even if you're a prodigy, you still don't have the right for Old Man Chanlong to take hostages in an attempt to threaten you. Old Man Chanlong isn't any great person, but at the very least, he respects his own status, said the trapped soul. His voice drifted out from the formation's banners. Kaya could sense the hostility in Jian Chen and Master Chanlong's words. He ignored Jian Chen's urgings and stood between the two of them. She said to Jian Chen, what are you doing? Chanlong is my friend. Why would he use me as a hostage against you? You've misunderstood. Kaya also realized there were probably grievances between Jian Chen and Master Chanlong. What did you say? Friends? Jian Chen stared at Kaya in surprise as he became dumbfounded. He was basically doubting his ears. Just how long had Kaya spent in the Saints' world? How long ago had she woken up? Moreover, there was a great disparity in strength between her and Master Chanlong, where one was heaven and the other was earth. How could they have become friends? Kaya stopped the aggressive Jianchen and explained, Jianchen, I know you don't believe me. Although we've just met, we became fast friends. I have indeed treated Chanlong as a friend of mine. He's my best friend beside you. Jianchen sighed gently when he saw how serious Kaya was. She did not seem to be joking. Jianchen said, Kaya, you still haven't truly understood the person before you. Chanlong is a mighty late overgod and a formations master. His status is so great, so how can he treat you with any importance? Master Chanlong spoke up. He said emotionlessly as he held an azure disc in one hand and a set of formation banners in the other, Jianchen, I disdain explaining it to you, but as this directly relates to Kaya's trust in me, I must say something. That's right, I am indeed a late overgod and a formations master. I am renowned in this region, but I have indeed become fast friends with Miss Kaya. In just the short time we spent together, she has become my first friend. Jianchen sneered, Chanlong, do you think I'd believe you? You're probably doing this with other intentions. However, no matter what they are, I won't let you leave so easily today. Jianchen gripped the startling rainbow sword as his presence surged. It had already locked onto Chanlong. At this very moment, a black figure charged into the inn with lightning speed. It arrived before Jianchen in a single instance and grabbed Kaya by the shoulder, taking her out of the inn. Jianchen had always remained on guard against Master Chanlong. He did not stop the black figure at all. The black figure was Shun Jian in black robes. Jianchen had already contacted Shun Jian using his soul during his stalemate against Master Chanlong. He got Shun Jian to take Kaya away. As long as Kaya was present, he would be held back. He would not be bold enough to engage in a battle against Chanlong. Even though this would reveal Shun Jian's existence, Jianchen could not think too much about it for the sake of Kaya's safety. I never thought that there would actually be a second overgod in the Tianyuan clan. Master Chanlong stared at Jianchen emotionlessly. Chanlong, it's time for us to settle the grievances we built up in the past. You were lucky when you escaped last time. Today you're done for. The startling rainbow sword in Jianchen's hands surged with sharp light. He pointed it at Master Chanlong. You think I'm doomed? You still don't have that power, Jianchen, sneered Master Chanlong. The azure disc in his hand glowed brightly and a huge formation appeared, revolving around his body. A huge battle was about to erupt. However, at this moment, both of their faces changed, and they looked in the same direction. At the next moment, 7 tremendous presences surged out. It enveloped the entire Dong'an province in an extremely brutal manner. Each presence was at the level of overgods, and there were quite a few late overgods among them. The 7 great protectors of the Earth Spirit sect from the Heavenly Moon Empire have arrived. Who is the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan? Why don't you come and receive us immediately? Is the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan, Jianchen, present? Come receive us on your knees. That's right, on your knees. You better move quickly. Don't make us wait, or don't blame us for removing your Tianyuan clan from existence. 4 clear voices boomed through the air, reaching every corner of the provincial city. Their voices were forceful, arrogant, and condescending. Chapter 1899. Attack. The voices of the protectors from the Earth Spirit sect boomed through the entire provincial city. At that moment, countless people stopped what they were doing no matter how important it was. They all stared at the sky in surprise, looking around for the source of the voices. Ever since Jianchen defeated Yang Kai of the Yang family, the Tianyuan clan had become the greatest clan in the divine kingdom of Pingtian, replacing the Yang family. Additionally, the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan, Jianchen, had become known as the greatest expert below god kings in the divine kingdom of Pingtian. Not to mention the divine kingdom of Pingtian, but he was even famed in the neighboring divine kingdoms. No one dared to provoke him. However, not only had someone provoked Jianchen, but they even spoke without any mercy at all. They arrogantly asked for Jianchen to receive them on his knees. The boldness stunned many people. In particular, the final sentence that mentioned they would remove the Tianyuan clan from existence shocked all the people in the provincial city. Who is it? Aren't they just too arrogant? Shouldn't they have a look at what the Tian Yuan clan is? They're the most powerful overgod clan in the divine kingdom of Pingtian now. What place is the Heavenly Moon Empire? I've never heard of it. And what is this Earth Spirit sect? They seem pretty powerful. They've sent 7 protectors that act so arrogantly, completely looking down on the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan. The Tian Yuan clan cannot be offended. Although I don't know who they are, I believe the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan will never spare them. The patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan is a powerful, vicious person. I heard he killed 3 overgods from the Empyrean demon cult in just a few moves. That's equivalent to the ancestors of large clans. They're all peak experts in the divine kingdom of Pingtian. Discussions rose up around the city, but without any exceptions, most of the people held great confidence for the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan. There were even many people who looked forward to the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan teaching a lesson to the big-mouthed people who had come to cause trouble. Many of them had not heard of the Earth Spirit sect and the Heavenly Moon Empire before. Only a small fraction of the gods had heard of the Earth Spirit sect before. They became stern as they worried for the Tian Yuan clan. The 2 remaining gods in the Wainer clan heard the calls across the entire city as well, and they became extremely excited. The protectors of the Earth Spirit sect have come. Xiao Yan is also a protector. They should be his seniors and juniors. Quick, go contact Xiao Yan. The protectors of the Earth Spirit sect have come to support our Wainer clan. Fantastic, that's just fantastic. Today is the day we rise up. The 2 gods who were even older than Wainer Yen scurried excitedly to where Wainer Yen cultivated as quickly as they could. At the same time, Jianchen frowned. When he heard the protector's words, a vicious light immediately flashed through his eyes. He immediately abandoned Master Chanlong and shot off as a streak of light. Jianchen hovered above the huge city walls outside the provincial city. He stared ahead sharply and emotionlessly. Before him stood 7 people in uniform attires. They had their arms crossed, and they looked at Jianchen arrogantly as if he was nothing. There were a total of 5 men among the 7 of them, and 2 of them seemed to be close to middle age. Their lips seemed to have curled into a sneer as their gazes towards Jianchen were filled with evident coldness. The 2 of them were also the most powerful among the 7. They were late overgods. The other 3 men retained a youthful appearance. There were 2 early overgods and 1 mid-overgod. The last 2 people were women who seemed to be around 20 years old. They wore long dresses that showed off their beautiful, slender figures. They were quite pretty. The 2 women were both mid-overgods. As soon as we called for Jianchen of the Tian Yuan clan, you immediately appeared. Are you Jianchen from the Tian Yuan clan? An early overgod young man studied Jianchen. His arms were crossed as he said leisurely. He seemed like he was fooling around. That's right. I'm the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan, Jianchen. However, this is the Dong'an province, not your Earth Spirit sect. As a result, please dismiss the arrogance you possess in the Earth Spirit sect when you come here, Jianchen said calmly. The young man laughed when he heard that. He stared at Jianchen like he was challenging him and said, "Oh, you're actually threatening us now. But that's exactly what we're going to do to you. What can you do about it?" Junior 2, stop wasting so many words on him. Jianchen, haven't you heard what we said before? Why don't you kneel when you receive us 7 great protectors? The other early overgod said sternly. The 5 other mid and late overgods hovered in the air as they stared at Jianchen coldly with crossed arms. Their gazes were threatening as if they were not disdained to talk to Jianchen with their arrogance. Jianchen's eyes became cold when he was faced with the naked provocation of the protectors. He said coldly, "Even 2 puny ants dare to ask me to kneel? Are all the people from the Earth Spirit sect like this?" Jianchen's voice was also filled with deep disdain. He was not exaggerating things either. With his current strength, early overgods were indeed like ants before him. However, the faces of the 2 early overgods sank. Killing intent filled their eyes as they said coldly, "Jianchen, you're looking to die. Allow me to show you what happens when you underestimate the protectors of the Earth Spirit sect." With that, the 2 of them took out their saint artifacts and directly attacked Jianchen. Gushing sword chi startles the heavens. The two early overgods called out. They swung their swords and sent two huge strands of sword chi through the air that shot towards Jian Chen with lightning speed. The five other protectors all stared at Jian Chen in great interest when the two people struck out. They wanted to witness Jian Chen's strength through the two of them. They had just hurried over from the Earth Spirit sect, so they did not understand Jian Chen's true strength too well. They only knew that their junior, Weiner Yen, had suffered a defeat at Jian Chen's hands. However, Weiner Yen was also an early overgod when that happened. He was roughly just as powerful as the two people who attacked Jian Chen. The two early overgods had struck out together. Moreover, they had used a secret technique from their sect, so they were much more powerful than regular overgods. Together, they could take on a mid-overgod in a battle. Chapter 1900. Single stroke beheading. The two strands of sword chi shone brightly, illuminating the surroundings. It really did possess a presence that it could startle the heavens. They were extremely swift, and when they shot out, it was coupled with a crisp thrum of the sword that the great vibrations from the swords in the hands of the two early overgods created. The two strands of sword chi locked onto Jian Chen's presence tightly. They crossed over to him instantly in an unstoppable manner. The powerful origin energy that belonged to an early overgod and the laws of the world mingled together, falling down onto Jian Chen like a huge net to seal off any path of escape. Jian Chen's eyes narrowed slightly. The two of them really did come from a large sect after all. As soon as they attacked him, the strength they displayed probably could not be matched up to by any other early overgod. In particular, the battle skills they used seemed to possess the might of mid-overgods. Impressive battle skill, but it's a pity that the people using it are a little too weak, just like two ants. It's like even if they can lift up things that are far heavier than themselves, they're still puny. How would they be able to threaten a huge beast? Jian Chen said scornfully. Heavy killing intent flashed through his eyes. Suddenly, the startling rainbow sword exploded with light. A powerful sword intent radiated from Jian Chen. The sword had turned into a blur the moment he stabbed out. His strike seemed to be able to tear through the laws. It seemed to have condensed the truths of the world and followed a natural trajectory. The simple strike was devastating. The expressions of the two early overgods from the Earth Spirit sect changed. They stared at Jian Chen in shock. They thought that they had understood Jian Chen's strength, but they had never expected he would be so powerful. Just that strike alone made them feel the danger of death. At the same time, it also made them feel like they had ended up in hell. The two protectors were shocked and filled with disbelief. They knew that Jian Chen was not weak. After all, even their junior Weiner Yen had been defeated by him. However, with their strength combined, they could even last a while against a late overgod, even if they could not win. However, let alone last a while, they could not even take a single strike from Jian Chen. Oh no! The expressions of the two late overgods from the Earth Spirit sect changed. Jian Chen's attack was so powerful that even they felt a great threat. It was impossible for their early overgod juniors to block the attack. The two late overgods immediately stepped in, charging towards Jian Chen as quickly as possible. They wanted to block Jian Chen's attack for their juniors. However, it was impossible for Jian Chen to let them do they wished. The protectors of the Earth Spirit sect had arrived with great hostility, and they had even made rude remarks about him. They had demanded him to receive them on his knees. Jian Chen could never just let them go like that. Not to mention that he would probably end up fighting the protectors of the Earth Spirit sect today anyways. Since that was going to happen, it was better for him to take advantage of the situation and heavily injure them so that their power was reduced. Boom! The two strands of sword chi from the early overgods collided with Jian Chen's attack. The strands of sword chi were as fragile as paper, directly exploding in the air. With a great boom, a huge, visible sound wave appeared, causing the great walls of the provincial city to tremble slightly. Formations appeared. Meanwhile, Jian Chen's startling rainbow sword continued onwards at the same speed. It shone with dazzling white light and directly cleaved through the shockwaves from the two strands of sword chi. It landed on the necks of the two protectors mercilessly. The strike was extremely fast. It came and went in a split second. The two late overgods from the Earth Spirit sect wanted to support the early overgods, but they were too late. Stop, Jianshan. If you dare to touch Junior 2 and Junior Lei, we'll definitely show you what will happen today. We'll remove your Tianyuan clan from the Dong'an province, a late overgod threatened loudly. Patriarch of the Tianyuan clan, if you even touch a hair on Juniors 2 and Lei, your Tianyuan clan will meet its maker today. No one will be spared, the other late overgod added aggressively. Although Jianshan had displayed extraordinary strength, they still looked down on him. After all, they came from the Earth Spirit sect of the Heavenly Moon Empire. Originating from a large sect, they possessed a natural sense of superiority. After coming to the countryside like the divine kingdom of Pingtian, they naturally believed that they were far greater than the people here, as if they ruled over them. However, Jianshan did not stop at all when he heard their threats. Instead, a vicious light flashed through his eyes and killing intent surged. He only wanted to teach them a slight lesson in the beginning by incapacitating them. However, he decided that he needed to teach them a painful, unforgettable lesson now. The startling rainbow sword turned into a streak of white light. It slashed out like a fan, directly sweeping through their necks without any obstruction at all. Immediately, blood spurted from their necks like fountains. The early overgods had been beheaded. The blood propelled the two heads high up into the sky, and then the heads spun as they fell. Their eyes were filled with shock and fear. In just a single stroke, Jianshan had forcefully beheaded the two early overgods in a dominating manner. Not only did the 5 protectors become completely dumbfounded by the sight of this, all the people in the Dong'an province became more shocked than they had ever been before. They all fell into a daze. Do you see that young man in white robes? He's the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan, Jianshan. Heavens, the patriarch really is just too powerful. He beheaded 2 early overgods without any effort at all. The patriarch of the Tianyuan clan is actually so powerful, where even early overgods are no different from ants before him. Just what is his strength? Has he already broken through to God King? The patriarch is so powerful that he can probably make it onto the 3,000 overgods plaque. The Dong'an province fell silent for a while before suddenly erupting with an enthusiastic hubbub. Jianshan had beheaded 2 overgods with lightning speed, and all the people in the provincial city had witnessed this. They became extremely excited. Ever since the Tianyuan clan was founded, they had always dealt with troublemakers and assisted the weak. The people in the clan did not take women forcefully either, so the Tianyuan clan had earned the favor and support of many people in the provincial city. They were completely different from the Mo family of the divine kingdom of Qingyang. As a result, many people immediately cheered when they saw the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan gain the upper hand against powerful enemies. Chapter 1901. Everyone mobilized. Senior Gong, Senior Wu, save us. Save us. The 2 protectors who had been beheaded asked for help in fear. Of course, they were unable to make any sounds now that their heads had been separated from their bodies. They produced mental pulses to ask for help. As long as their souls existed, they would not die even if their bodies were reduced to pieces. As a result, the 2 of them remained alive even after their heads were chopped off. Of course, their current situation was quite horrible because a tiny strand of sword qi had been deposited in them after Jianshan beheaded them. The sword qi split into 2, one remained in their bodies, while the other directly entered their head. However, Jianshan had controlled the power very well. The sword qi in their heads was not powerful at all. They could fend it off with just the power of their souls. The sword qi would not wipe out their souls, and they would not die. It would only waste away a tremendous amount of power from their souls. The 2 late overgods who were known as Senior Gong and Senior Wu arrived before the heads with sunken faces. They each protected one of them, pressing them gently against their necks. At the same time, they took out a bottle of pills from their space rings and ground it to dust before rubbing it on their wounds. Immediately, the injuries on their necks began to heal at a visible rate. The heads reconnected with the bodies very quickly. During that time, The other 3 mid-overgods stared at Jianchen cautiously so that they would be ready if Jianchen suddenly struck out in an attempt to stop them from helping. However, Jianchen did not plan on killing them. He did not stop them from helping the 2 early overgods. Instead, he retreated with his sword. He stared at them coldly and emotionlessly. "It's fortunate that we saved you in time. Your bodies haven't been damaged any further than this. Otherwise, it wouldn't be easy to reconnect your heads," a late overgod said gladly. When he glanced at Jianchen, cold light flashed through his eyes with powerful killing intent. "Thank you for saving us, Senior Gong and Senior Wu. If it were not for the fact that you 2 made it in time, we probably would have died to Jianchen's hands," the 2 protectors who believed that they had survived out of pure luck said weakly. Their bodies trembled gently while their faces became frighteningly pale. The muscles on their faces twitched unnaturally as they seemed to be in great pain. Pure strands of sword qi rampaged through their bodies. It destroyed their vitality, crushed their organs, and severed their blood vessels. At the same time, there was a weak strand of sword qi in their heads. If they did not try to fend it off with their full power, it could wipe out their souls at any time. The 2 of them immediately sat down and devoted themselves to stopping the 2 strands of sword qi that created trouble in their bodies. "You dare attempt to kill the protectors of the Earth Spirit Sect? Jianchen, you're just far too bold. Looks like you country bumpkins from this tiny divine kingdom don't know what kind of existence our Earth Spirit Sect is," a woman said among the 7 protectors. Her crisp voice was filled with coldness while her eyes were frigid. Afterwards, she looked at the 2 late overgods and said, "Senior Gong, Senior Wu, the people from the Tianyuan clan are bold enough to try to kill the protectors of our Earth Spirit Sect. They cannot be spared from their crimes. I think the Tianyuan clan really has no reason to continue existing." The 2 seniors nodded emotionlessly. Senior Gong said easily, "Since Junior and feels there's no more reason for the Tianyuan clan to exist, let's destroy them. The Tianyuan clan has suppressed Junior Yen for so long. It's time for them to pay the price. This Jianchen has some skill. It'll probably take me a while to kill him if I fight him all alone. Whatever. Just leave him to Protector Gong and me. The rest of you go deal with the other people from the Tianyuan clan. But you have to remember to not destroy the provincial city. It's Junior Yan's territory," Senior Wu said as well. He looked in the direction of the Wainer clan and smiled faintly. "Junior Yan's talent really is great. He's about to break through to mid-overgood soon. Let's move quickly. Once he emerges, we'll give him the head of the patriarch from the Tianyuan clan as a gift." The protectors discussed the matter among themselves. With just that, they were ready to eliminate the Tianyuan clan completely. They did not treat Jianchen with any importance at all. Jianchen's killing intent surged when he heard them talk. He said coldly, "I've already shown mercy before by not killing the 2 of you. If you don't know what's best for you, you can't blame me for not showing any more mercy." The 2 late overgods laughed. Protector Gong said scornfully, "Just by yourself? You're just an overgod of a divine kingdom, just a country bumpkin, yet you dare talk to us like that? Allow me to witness just what skills you have to back up your words." With that, a powerful pulse of energy radiated from Protector Gong like a great wave. At that moment, Protector Gong's presence soared. It was extremely surprising. He formed a seal with 2 hands and fire rose up from him. It gave off a terrifying heat. The laws of fire condensed around him. The flames burnt more and more vigorously. In the blink of an eye, they went from red to gold. Terrifying energy shook up the surroundings, causing the ground to sink. The tall city walls shuddered. "Adamant seal of flames," Protector Gong called out. His body seemed to become a sun in the sky, shining with blinding light as he charged towards Jianchen in an unstoppable manner. The terrifying heat made him seem like a furnace of the world, and it was enough for space to distort. He used a powerful battle skill right from the start. He did not hold back at all, wanting to finish the battle fast and show off the greatness of the Earth Spirit Sect. At the same time, Protector Wu struck out as well. He wielded a huge 2-handed sword that shone with golden light. He also used a powerful battle skill. The laws of metal revolved around the huge sword as he directly slashed out. The strike possessed all the power of laws and energy that had accumulated on the sword. They fused together to form a thin, golden thread. The energy inside had been compressed through a special method with the battle skill such that the power of the golden thread would even make the expressions of many late overgods change. The two protectors both used powerful battle skills from the Earth Spirit sect. Neither of them was weaker than Yang Kai. Very few late overgods could stand up to them. Daluo sword. Jian Chen formed a seal with his hands, and a golden sword chi condensed above him. It shot towards Protector Wu with lightning speed. At the same time, he roared out at the sky. His hair danced purely from the energy he gave off, and his battle intent surged. The startling rainbow sword shone brightly as the power of laws revolved around him. He seemed to have fused with his sword, shooting aggressively towards Protector Gong. Jian Chen moved extremely quickly, like a comet through the sky. The origin energy that stood in his way had all been blasted to pieces. When they began fighting, of the three remaining protectors, the two mid-overgod women directly charged for the provincial city. Their eyes shone with cold killing intent as they directly made their way towards the Tianyuan clan. The last mid-overgod stood before the two people who just had their heads reconnected to their bodies, protecting them. Chapter 1902, Jian Chen's Might, 1. The roles of each of the 5 protectors were extremely clear. The 2 most powerful protectors dealt with Jian Chen, while one of the remaining 3 protected the other 2 injured protectors. The final 2 protectors would directly make their way towards the Tianyuan clan in an attempt to destroy it. The formations of the provincial city had been activated long ago. It formed an energy screen that protected the entire city. Although the Tianyuan clan had spent a great effort in reinforcing the formation of the city, elevating it to the level of overgods, it could only block attacks from early overgods. Under the teamwork of the 2 mid-overgods, it was naturally unable to stop them, and it crumbled without much effort at all. The 2 women from the Earth Spirit sect gave off icy presences with killing intent as they made their way towards the Tianyuan clan aggressively. Boom! A deafening sound rang out beyond the provincial city. Jian Chen had already engaged in an intense battle against Protectors Gong and Wu. His golden sword Qi collided with Protector Wu's golden thread that had been materialized from his battle skill. The golden thread exploded instantly, while the powerful origin energy and laws of metal expanded as an extremely great storm of energy that wreaked havoc in the surroundings. The terrifying pressure caused the ground to sink. The violent storm of energy struck the city walls as an extremely terrifying wave, immediately causing the great walls to crack. If it were not for the fact that the walls themselves were extraordinary, constructed from extremely tough material and engraved with countless complicated formations, just the wave of energy alone would have been enough to cause it to collapse. Protector Wu shone with dazzling golden light as the laws of metal revolved around him. He used it to fend off the incoming energy storm. However, his eyes suddenly narrowed at this moment. A sliver of disbelief appeared on his face. Right before him, a golden strand of sword chi tore through the air, directly cut through the energy storm, and headed directly towards him. How is this possible? The battle skill I used couldn't even stop a strand of sword chi? Protector Wu was extremely shocked. The golden sword chi had already locked on his presence, so he could not avoid it. He could only take it head-on. However, time was tight. It was already too late for him to strike out. All he could do was place his huge sword across his body while pushing the laws of metal around him to the limit. A set of armor condensed from origin energy appeared on his body. It combined with the laws of metal that wove into his armor. Boom! There was a second sound. After tearing through Protector Wu's battle skill, the golden sword Qi struck his huge sword with great force. Protector Wu only sensed the shocking force pass onto him from the golden sword Qi. His body shook violently, while his hands became numb. The powerful force had pushed him into a constant retreat. Moreover, an extremely sharp sword intent surged over. It enveloped Protector Wu completely while the power of the laws of the sword faced off against the laws of metal on him. It produced an oppressive sound. The laws of the sword were one of the most offensive laws. It was even greater than the laws of metal that Protector Wu had comprehended. The laws of metal around him dispersed rapidly, forcefully ground away by the laws of the sword. It left behind lashes on his body, almost causing his armor to collapse. After personally witnessing the power of the Daluo sword, Protector Wu could not help but gasp. He was filled with shock. How is the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan so powerful? Protector Wu's face changed, and he became extremely stern. In an open confrontation, just a single sword chi from the patriarch had almost injured him. He found this difficult to believe. Although the patriarch had beheaded 2 early overgods before him, Protector Wu did not take it to heart because he was confident that he could also do something like that if he caught them by surprise. Everything had happened extremely quickly. The clash between the Daluo sword and Protector Wu had only lasted for a split second. At the same time, Jian Chen fused with his sword and collided with Protector Gong's adamant seal of flames that transformed him into a sun as a huge sword chi. A loud explosion rang out. Loose sword chi filled the air. The startling rainbow sword shone brightly as it tore through the air as a beautiful streak. It directly punched through Protector Gong's sun. The sun shook violently. It flickered, but soon enough, strands of laws of fire condensed from the surroundings, consolidating it again. First transformation, Hand of the Adamant. Protector Gong's voice rang out. The sun that he had transformed into burned vigorously. The temperature in the surroundings suddenly skyrocketed. After he spoke, a huge hand completely condensed from fire reached out from the sun. A layer of golden flames covered it, and it swung towards Jian Chen with the might of the world. When the hand fell, a mysterious power appeared. It interwove with the laws and resonated with the world, sealing off the space around Jian Chen such that he became isolated. Jian Chen shone with dazzling white light. Using it as protection, chaotic force rampaged through his body. A strand of chaotic force curled around his startling rainbow sword as well, transforming its glow. At that moment, his vitality was pushed to his limits. He seemed to fuse with the sword in his hand completely. As he swung it, sword chi shot out like rain. They all shone brightly, forming a chain that landed on Protector Gong's hand. It had to be said that both Protector Gong and Protector Wu were extremely powerful. The battle skills they used were of high grade. The strength they displayed at that moment had completely exceeded Yang Kai's. Very few people would be their opponent with the same level of cultivation. However, Jian Chen cultivated the chaotic body. Coupled with the laws of the sword that were known to possess the most offensive power, he was even more powerful than them. With a single slash, the world paled before it. The seal Protector Gong's hand created shattered loudly before the strike, and the sword chi directly slashed through the hand. Protector Gong's sun shook violently. There seemed to be a faint grunt from within there. Clearly, after the hand was cut off, Protector Gong was affected as well. On the other hand, even though Jian Chen was protected by his glow that obscured his appearance, the presence he gave off did not weaken at all. Instead, it grew stronger, and he became bolder and bolder as he fought. How is the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan so powerful? With the strength he is displaying right now, he can easily make it onto the 3,000 Overgods plaque. How can this tiny land with such poor resources produce such an expert? Protector Gong was secretly surprised. He and Protector Wu did not manage to gain the upper hand at all when they decided to work together against the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan. This had surprised him. After cutting off the hand in a single strike, Jian Chen did not continue to entangle with the 2 late overgods. He turned into a streak of light and shot towards the 2 women with surging killing intent. At this moment, the defensive formations of the Tianyuan clan had all been activated. All the elders had already emerged from seclusion, and they had now gathered together sternly. In the Forbidden Grounds, Houston, Sacred Feather, Hong Lian, Hei Yu, and the others from the world of Forsaken Saints had all emerged as well. They stared outside the city sternly. Shangguan Mu'er had also emerged from seclusion. Her powerful presence as an overgod was being charged up. It was only increasing now so that she was ready to strike out at any time. "Where do you think you're going?" "Stay here, you're our opponent," Protector Wu bellowed out. Origin energy surged on his huge sword as he slashed out several times with the laws of metal. He formed a huge net that wrapped around Jian Qin to block his path. Chapter 1903, Jian Chen's Might 2, Piss Off. Jian Chen roared out as a vicious light flickered through his eyes. He opened a path with the startling rainbow sword. His every strike possessed the power of laws, and every single one of them resonated with the world. When it came in contact with Protector Wu's laws of metal, it tore through it all. Protector Wu's huge sword danced quickly. Energy surged, and the laws of the world appeared. The might of a powerful battle skill shook up the surroundings as he used his full strength against Jian Qin to keep him busy. Protector Wu fought with great difficulty. His face was extremely stern, and he had already paled. The Protector's uniform from the Earth Spirit sect on his body had already ripped. In such a short amount of time, he had already become covered in slashes and blood. Jian Qin formed a seal and used the Daluo sword again. It punched through the golden light around Protector Wu and struck his body. With a heavy thud, Protector Wu was sent flying while vomiting blood. His face was pale, and he was now very injured. The sword chi did not pierce through his body. Instead, his huge sword blocked it. However, he still became heavily injured regardless. How is the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan so strong? He's unstoppable. Are there still any overgods who can take him on? No, I can't let him catch up to my juniors, or it'll be too late even if I want to save them. Protector Wu was extremely shocked. He immediately took out some healing pills he had received from the Earth Spirit sect and consumed them before charging over once again. Jian Qin was worried about the Tianyuan clan, so he was not in the mood to continue fighting with Protector Wu. After pushing him back with a single strike, he wanted to hurry off to the Tianyuan clan. However, at this moment, a hand covered in golden flames appeared before Jian Qin with the laws of fire and shot towards him. Protector Gong had silently appeared behind Jian Qin. His eyes were filled with cold, killing intent. Frigid light flickered through Jian Qin's eyes. He was extremely cold. Jian Qin experienced killing intent when the two protectors did everything they could to stop him so that they could buy time for the two mid-overgods to destroy the Tianyuan clan. The light around Jian Qin shone brighter, and chaotic force rampaged within him, filling every inch of his body. He pushed the defenses of his chaotic body to the maximum. He did not even try to dodge Protector Gong's palm strike. Instead, he directly used his back to resist it. Protector Gong's golden hand struck Jian Qin's layer of protective light with terrifying heat, destroying it. However, the light managed to waste away quite a lot of the laws of fire that had condensed within the hand. It had lost half of everything just to get through the light. In the end, it struck Jian Qin's back with only half its power. Thud! All of the power within Protector Gong's hand exploded on Jian Qin's back, blowing him far away. Protector Gong could not help but smile joyously when he saw his attack land. Jian Qin had used his body to take on the strike. Even though it had already weakened drastically to get through the light around Jian Qin, the remaining power was still extremely great. Any overgod would become heavily injured if they took such a strike regardless of how powerful they were. However, in the next moment, Protector Gong's complacent expressions suddenly froze. His eyes widened as he stared at Jian Qin in utter disbelief. He became slightly stunned. He discovered that Jian Qin's complexion was the same as before after taking on the strike. He was still brimming with energy, and his presence did not weaken at all. It did not seem like he was injured at all. Instead, he flew towards the provincial city with even greater speed, pursuing Protector Gong's two juniors with lightning speed. The palm strike did not even seem like it was for injuring Jian Qin. Instead, it seemed like it was used to propel Jian Qin towards his two juniors. Why did this happen? My attack clearly landed on him. It's impossible for him to not become injured. Protector Gong watched on in disbelief. He had struck Jian Qin after so much difficulty, but he discovered that he failed to injure Jian Qin at all. This matter had taken him by surprise. Even in the Earth Spirit sect, his strength made him one of the top existences among all overgods. He was proud, yet he seemed like nothing time and time again after coming to a backwater place like the divine kingdom of Pingtian. The two women from the Earth Spirit sect also discovered that Jianchen was chasing them. Jianchen simply moved too quickly. It was impossible for them to destroy the Tian Yuan clan before he arrived, as they were only mid-overgods. Feng Xia, go destroy the Tian Yuan clan. I'll stop him, one of the women said coldly. She held a fan and swung it forcefully. It produced a cloud of sword qi that shot towards Jianchen. Each strand of sword qi was only the size of a finger, and it fell on Jianchen like rain. They all possessed the power from the laws of the sword. Jianchen stabbed out. The light on the startling rainbow sword surged. The sword qi from the fan collided with the light from the startling rainbow sword, causing it all to disperse. Afterwards, a ray of light shot out from the startling rainbow sword. With a flash of white light in the sky, the light directly punched through the woman's chest. The woman vomited blood. At the same time, blood spurted out from her chest like a fountain, falling like rain. Filling the air, it seemed like a storm of blood, dyeing the streets of the city red. Junior Qin. The two late overgods both cried out. They had already rushed over, stopping Jianchen once again. The three of them began fighting above the city. Terrifying shockwaves of energy shook up the surroundings and kicked up storms. Many structures collapsed wherever it managed to hit. The city was in a mess. Everyone fled crazily. They all used everything they had to push their speeds to the limit. These were energy shockwaves from battles between late overgods. Even gods could not endure it, not to mention the fact that many of them had not even attained godhood. Jianchen was entangled with Protector Wu and Protector Gong. He was unable to break free temporarily, so it was difficult for him to heavily injure the final woman. At this moment, sword qi shot into the air. A dark, metal sword surged into the air from one of the streets in the city, directly towards the final protector. Jianchen, just deal with the two of them without worrying. Leave the two women to me, Shenzhen's voice rang out. As he spoke, he struck Kaiya's back with a palm strike, sending her flying with a gentle force. At the same time, he called out, "Go return to the clan." After sending Kaiya away, Shenzhen shot up from the ground. He too flickered with light as he soared into the sky with sword qi. With the dark, metal sword in his hand, he began fighting with the female protector. The woman who had a hole punched through her chest by Jianchen was not dead. She raised her head and looked at Shenzhen, who was busy fighting Feng Xia. Then, she glanced at Kaiya, who had been sent far away by Shenzhen. A cold light appeared in her eyes. Where did this overgod come from? He's sticking his nose into other people's business, getting in the way of us destroying the Tian Yuan clan. I'll definitely make you pay a heavy price. Since you pushed away that Saint Emperor ant before you began fighting with Feng Xia, she must be quite important to you. Alright, I think I remember seeing you always guard her before. With a thought, the woman sneered, and with a single moment, she charged towards Kaiya with great speed. Chapter 1904, Jianchen's Might, 3. Jianchen and Shenzhen both noticed the protector who charged straight for Kaiya. However, they were both busy with their opponents and were unable to break free immediately. Even if they could shake off their opponents temporarily, it would have been too late. Kaiya was not far away from the female protector. With the female protector's cultivation at mid-overgod, she only needed a split second to arrive before Kaiya. She swung her fan gently and produced a barrage of rain-like sword qi that flooded towards Kaiya. Kaiya's eyes suddenly narrowed. In this moment of life or death, she did not become flustered at all. Instead, she stared at the barrage of sword qi with interest. She was only a Saint Emperor right now, so she was as puny as an ant before a mid-overgod. It was impossible for her to survive the attacks of a mid-overgod, let alone even see it. However, to her surprise, she could actually see every movement of the female protector clearly. Time seemed to become extremely slow in her eyes. She clearly saw that the trajectories of the sword qi as they approached her like a storm. Unfortunately, although Kaya could see everything, she was still too weak in the end. She did not even have the ability to dodge the attack. She knew very well just what would happen if she was hit. There would be no hopes of survival. Let alone having her soul dispersed, even her corpse would not remain whole. However, at this moment when she faced death, her heart became extraordinarily calm while her face did not change at all. If Jian Chen could see the current Kaya, he would definitely become filled with suspicion, as she seemed like a completely different person to the Kaya he once knew. They were still the same person, but her mind and presence seemed to belong to someone else. Arg! In the sky, Jian Chen roared out as he fought against the two protectors. Killing intent surged from his body as his presence became extremely astounding. At that moment, his two eyes seemed to become silver-white as they radiated with sharp sword chi. He was already ready to use the profound sword chi to directly kill the female protector now that Kaya was in danger. At the same time, Shangguan Muer's expression changed suddenly in the forbidden grounds of the Tian Yuan clan. She sat in the air. At the same time, her zither had silently appeared. She placed it across her knees and was about to provide support. At that moment, she could no longer follow Jian Chen's advice to keep her strength hidden. However, just when Jian Chen was about to use his profound sword chi and Shangguan Muer was about to play her zither, an azure light suddenly appeared. It arrived in front of Kaya before Jian Chen and Shangguan Muer could make their moves, turning into a huge, azure disc that stood before her. Ding 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 ding. The rain-like sword chi struck the azure disc, and they all dispersed. They transformed into a powerful pulse of energy that wreaked havoc in the city, throwing structures into the air and creating huge cracks in the ground. Chanlong. Jian Chen's eyes narrowed. He checked below him with the senses of his soul and saw everything clearly. Immediately, he became stunned. He had never thought that Master Chanlong would actually save Kaya at such an important moment. In the forbidden grounds of the clan, Shangguan Muer was stunned as well. She stared in Kaya's direction and put her zither away. Master Chanlong stood leisurely behind the azure disc. He extended his right hand and controlled the disc that was 3 meters wide. No matter how violent it was on the other side, the disc blocked it all out with great ease. Who are you? Do you want to become enemies with the Earth Spirit sect? The female protector became enraged. Her face sank heavily. They had come to destroy the Tian Yuan clan for their junior yen, but none of them had ever thought they would be stopped time and time again. It made her furious. Did the divine kingdom of Pingtian want to turn against them? Overgods showed up one after another to stop them in a backwater city like this. With a wave of his sleeve, the azure disc hovered above Master Chanlong. He stared at the woman with the fan. His hands were behind his back while his face was extremely calm. He said, "I don't want to become enemies with the Earth Spirit sect, but this person is my friend. As long as I'm here, you protectors of the Earth Spirit sect won't be able to touch a single hair on her." Master Chanlong was extremely confident. He did not treat the 7 protectors as anything important at all. However, he really did have that strength. He possessed the power to back up his arrogance. If he had enough time to cast down formations, he could even kill God Kings. Daluo sword. Tai sword technique. On the other side, Jian Chen had already struck out with his full strength. The golden sword chi shot towards Protector Wu's huge sword, tearing through the defenses of his golden light and punching through his chest. Protector Wu grunted, and blood spurted out of his mouth. He was blown away like a cannonball, becoming extremely injured. At the same time, Jian Chen fused with his sword. Sword chi gathered around his body as he became the sword himself, shooting towards Protector Wu. Second transformation, Foot of the Adamant. Protector Gong used a battle skill once again. A huge foot condensed below him. With the battle skill's might, it stomped towards Jian Chen. The second transformation was even more powerful than the first. As the foot fell, the space underneath it seemed to become compressed. It created several booms while even space rippled and became distorted. Jian Chen was fearless. As a sword, he charged straight at it with surging presence. His battle prowess was just shocking. Boom! The foot and the sword collided loudly. Shockwaves of energy filled the sky, causing it to warp and change in color. The foot collapsed loudly, while Jian Chen tore through the shockwaves without slowing down at all. He shot towards Protector Gong like a bolt of lightning. Protector Gong backpedaled as he grunted. His face was completely flushed, and blood oozed from the corner of his lips. That was not all, however. Even his eyes, nostrils, and ears dripped with blood. He was bleeding from all his orifices. Even though he was very injured, he did not dare to rest. He had already become extremely stern. The laws of fire rapidly gathered towards his hands such that his flaming red hands gradually became golden like metal. It radiated with terrifying pulses of energy. He swung down with both hands with basically all the origin energy within him to fend off the incoming Jian Chen. Jian Chen's gaze was cold. With a swirl of sword chi, he directly made his way around the arms. Blood splattered and both of the Protector's arms had been chopped off. Blood filled with air. Protector Gong produced an extremely painful grunt. The muscles on his face distorted while huge beads of sweat covered his forehead. His face was extremely pale. A powerful sword chi surrounded the arms that had been chopped off. The sword chi was like flesh-eating insects, rapidly destroying his arms. In just a short moment, both of the arms had been reduced to a meaty pulp, severing the hope of reattaching his arms as the easiest way to regain use of them. Chapter 1905, End of the Crisis, Jian Chen. Protector Gong roared out furiously. His eyes had become completely bloodshot. He would need quite a long time to recover his arms now that Jian Chen had completely destroyed them. It would even end up damaging his vitality. Moreover, even though he was a late overgod, Protector Gong was incapacitated now that he had lost both of his arms. The laws of fire that had condensed around him had already dispersed, while he, who had transformed into a sun due to the laws, reappeared. His body was covered with vicious and terrifying slashes. He was bloodied and in a horrible condition while his face was sheet white, giving off a sense of weakness. Today, both Protector Gong and Protector Wu had become heavily injured and reduced to a horrible shape. They were not like Jian Chen, who possessed the tough chaotic body. As a result, their battle prowess had been greatly reduced after being injured. They were nowhere near close to their peak condition. However, Jian Chen did not plan to let them off just yet. He swung the startling rainbow sword and produced two huge chains created from sword chi. He attacked the two protectors again, forcing them to vomit blood. At the same time, their wounds worsened. They were completely incapacitated now. Senior Gong and Senior Wu have actually been defeated. They actually can't beat the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan even when working together. They even failed to injure him. How is this possible? It's impossible. In the distance, the two early overgods and the only other protector who did not take part in the battle struggled to accept this outcome. They were in disbelief. In their eyes, even among all the overgods of the Earth Spirit sect, Protector Gong and Protector Wu ranked towards the very top. They were extremely close to God King, and they only required a final step. However, what happened before them today had completely overturned their understandings. Working together, the powerful protectors had actually lost to an overgod from a backwater city. In the provincial city, Shen Jian wielded his dark sword as sword chi surged from him. His intense battle with Feng Xia had already risen from the original altitude of a few hundred meters to 10,000 meters. Even though Feng Xia was a mid-overgod, making her cultivation greater than Shen Jian, who was only an early overgod, Shen Jian suppressed her firmly when they actually clashed. Who is this person? How is he so powerful? Is he the prodigy of some great sect? Feng Xia was extremely shocked inside. Pitted against Shen Jian's lightning-swift attacks, she had already used her full strength, without holding back anything at all. However, even with that being the case, she only just managed to keep him at bay. She was reduced to just dealing with whatever he threw at her, completely losing the upper hand. Below, the woman with the fan wanted to kill Kaiya, but she was entangled with Chanlong. She was extremely annoyed and had attacked Chanlong without any hesitation at all. However, Master Chanlong was a famed formations master. He possessed extremely great mastery over the laws of formations, so just a single defensive formation from him could nullify all the attacks from the woman with ease. Master Chanlong and Kai Ya stood within the formation. Master Chanlong had his hands behind his back as he stared at the woman outside leisurely. He allowed her to attack the formation exhaustively with a pale face and did not fight back at all. With my support, even if you attack this formation for 10,000 years straight, you won't be able to get through it. I only want to protect my friend. I don't want to become enemies with your Earth Spirit sect, so you better stop it now, Master Chanlong said plainly. The woman's eyes turned cold when she heard that. She said frigidly, "There's nothing I can do about your formation, but you should know that our Earth Spirit sect is filled with talents and experts. Let alone overgods, but we even have quite a few god kings as well. If you continue to get in our way, our Earth Spirit sect will not spare you." Master Chanlong ignored the woman's threats. He said indifferently, "Although I don't want to become enemies with your Earth Spirit sect, that doesn't mean I fear your Earth Spirit sect. If you want to keep going, I can only cast down a formation and keep you trapped." "You," the woman's chest heaved with anger. She was a mighty protector of the Earth Spirit sect. In a backwater kingdom like this, she would receive only respect wherever she went. She had never become so furious before. However, when she saw how fearless Master Chanlong was, she understood that this old man was not joking with her. She immediately glanced at him with resentment before turning around and flying towards the Tian Yuan clan. "Tian Yuan clan, it's all because of you. If I swear I will destroy you today." Killing intent filled the woman's eyes. Even though she had taken a strike from Jian Chen and was injured, she was a mid-overgod after all. Wiping out a clan without an overgod would require no effort at all. However, at this moment, a streak of light shot over the horizon, arriving with lightning speed. It moved extremely quickly, piercing through her chest before she could even react. Spurt! Blood sprayed into the air, and the woman grunted. The startling rainbow sword had pierced her entire body. Jian Chen gripped the sword with a single hand as he stared coldly at the woman with killing intent. As he pushed out with his right hand, the sword flew off with the woman, directly stabbing into the damaged city walls in the end. It pinned her there firmly. Seeing how Jian Chen had already dealt with his opponents, Shin Jian went serious. He used his full strength and the Cloudstream sword suddenly shook. A visible ripple spread out from it. This ripple contained a devastating power. Once the ripple hit Feng Xia, her clothes were immediately reduced to tatters, revealing her slender figure. However, her body was already covered in blood, and even her bones were shaken to dust by the ripple. Now, the battle had finally ended. 6 of the 7 protectors had been heavily injured, only leaving behind a single mid-overgod who did not take part in the battle. He was already utterly stunned and pale by now, and he no longer possessed the courage to keep on fighting. How did this happen? How? The 2 protectors that Jian Chen had beheaded opened their eyes as well. They stared at the injured Protector Gong and Protector Wu as well as the woman who struggled painfully as she was pinned to the wall. They became so frightened that they trembled. They, the 7 protectors of the Earth Spirit sect, had actually all been defeated by an overgod clan from a backwater place like the divine kingdom of Pingtian. They took it very hard. At this moment, a tremendous presence suddenly soared into the sky from the Weiner clan within the city. It enveloped the entire provincial city. Weiner Yen had finally emerged from seclusion after all these years of cultivation. He had also successfully broken through to mid-overgod. However, just when Weiner Yan's presence appeared, it froze all of a sudden. The black-robed Weiner Yen charged out of the clan in a hurry. He hovered in the sky as he observed everything in shock. Disbelief filled his face. Clearly, he had completely stopped paying attention to the outside world when he broke through. He had no idea what had happened in the provincial city. Senior Gong, Senior Wu, Senior Feng, Senior Chen, why, you all, Weiner Yan cried out as he struggled to believe what he was seeing. Weiner Yan's eyes had become completely bloodshot when he saw the woman who had been pinned against the city walls by Jian Chen's startling rainbow sword. He became utterly enraged. "Jian Chen, so it's you." You injured my seniors. Weiner Yan's eyes locked onto Jianchen very soon, and he roared out furiously. His presence surged, and the laws of strength wove into his body as he charged towards Jianchen aggressively. Jianchen frowned. With a gentle wave of his sleeve, the laws around him formed a sword. It exploded with sword intent and took off as a streak of light, shooting towards Weiner Yan. Weiner Yan had just become a mid-overgod. Compared to before, his strength had increased drastically. He struck out as hard as he could, dealing his strongest strike, but it was not enough to stop the sword chi that Jianchen had sent out casually. Boom! Blood spurted from Weiner Yan's mouth as he was blown back. The laws of strength dispersed into the surroundings. His breakthrough had failed to close the gap between him and Jianchen. Instead, the gap had grown even wider. No, how did this happen? Impossible. This is impossible. Weiner Yan murmured in low spirits as he half knelt on the ground while blood oozed from the corner of his lips. He was confident that he could put up a fight against Jianchen after breaking through. He was even confident that he could defeat Jianchen, suppress the Tianyuan clan, and rule over the Dong'an province. However, in a single clash, he discovered that Jianchen had become even more powerful to the point where he struggled to believe it. This had affected him greatly. Chapter 1906, The Grand Imperial Protector's Plea for Mercy, Xiao Yan. Xiao Yan! 2 worried cries rang out. The only 2 gods of the Weiner clan flew out as quickly as they could. They had personally witnessed Weiner Yan being defeated by Jianchen in a single strike, so they felt extremely worried inside. They could no longer care about how dangerous it was, and they directly shot out of the clan to Weiner Yan's side. Xiao Yan, are you all right? Xiao Yan, you must stay calm. Don't rush into things. In the future, we won't become enemies with the Tianyuan clan. We don't want the provincial city of the Dong'an province anymore either. The 2 gods of the Weiner clan said with concern, but when they reached the end of these words, they seemed to lose all their fighting spirit. They seemed to have become much older. During these past few years, Weiner Yan had always been in secluded cultivation. He did not pay attention to the outside world, but the 2 gods understood everything that had happened extremely well. Jianchen had first challenged the ancestor of the Yang family, Yang Kai, and defeated him. He defeated the person who was known as the strongest expert below God King in the divine kingdom of Pingtian. Afterwards, the 3 overgods from the Empyrean demon cult attacked the Ling family in the sword-seeking province and sealed off the entire place. All the overgods in the divine kingdom did not dare to speak out against them. Even the royal family chose to remain silent. However, the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan stood forward righteously and selflessly, killing his way through the sword-seeking province by himself and claiming the lives of the 3 overgods. The matter made him famous. He was an overgod who did not fear even the Empyrean demon cult. With his powerful strength and willingness to kill, the very souls of the 2 gods had already been affected. They were confident that if the Weiner clan continued to stand against the Tianyuan clan, it would only lead to their own destruction in the end. Of course, what they worried the most about was Weiner Yan. They were now an overgod clan, but without Weiner Yan's support, they would be nothing. They would not even be one of the more powerful clans among god clans. No, I refuse. I refuse to accept this, Weiner Yan choked out. His strength had broken through once again. Let alone the southern region, but he would even be considered a talent with the entire cloud plane in perspective for reaching mid-overgod at such a young age. He should have been awe-inspiring and glorious, but after suffering a setback like this, he took it very hard. Shen Jian arrived before Jianchen with his sword on his back. He glanced at the injured protectors who laid on the ground, and he frowned. We can't kill these people. Killing them will cause great trouble. Jianchen nodded slightly. He also understood that. As a result, he only heavily injured the protectors when he fought them and did not kill a single one of them. The Earth Spirit sect was different from the Empyrean demon cult. The Empyrean demon cult was a demonic cult. Although they were far more powerful than the Earth Spirit sect, their reputation was horrible. They were a cult that all the major organizations on the plane disliked. Once the cult did something overboard or went too far, the large organizations would not just sit by and watch. They would definitely stand forward to stop them. However, the Earth Spirit sect was honest and righteous. If he killed the protectors of the Earth Spirit sect even when they had provoked him first, the Earth Spirit sect would have all the right in the world to deal with the Tianyuan clan. Even the Divine King would not stop them. Because of them, half of the provincial city has been destroyed and the other half is heavily damaged. It is nothing like how it was before. Even if they're protectors of the Earth Spirit sect, they have to pay for what they've done, Jianchen said emotionlessly. Silently, a strand of golden thread appeared near his wrist. The golden thread was the primordial god silk that had snapped in half when it fended off the crisis of the world on the Tianyuan continent. The primordial god silk was an extremely rare treasure of the world. Even in the saints' world and the immortals' world, it was one of the best materials out there. Unfortunately, the silk had snapped, and Jianchen's strength was nowhere near enough to reconnect the two parts, let alone forge it into an artifact. As a result, the primordial god silk was basically useless to him. Suddenly, the primordial god silk elongated from Jianchen's wrist. One end remained wrapped around Jianchen's arm, while the other end shot towards the protectors of the Earth Spirit sect like a snake, wrapping around them. The injured protectors were unable to put up a struggle at all. The primordial god silk tied them up firmly, completely immobilizing them. In particular, the woman who had been pinned to the wall was pulled away in an extremely brutal manner after she was tied up. The sword hilt passed through her body, creating a fist-sized hole. "I will never spare you for treating me like this," the woman screamed out. She was extremely furious. The only protector who did not take part in the battle could sense the horrible situation. He immediately took out a teleportation formation disc in an attempt to flee. A gleam of light flashed through Jianchen's eyes when he sensed this person's intentions. The startling rainbow sword that had been stabbed into the city wall immediately flew over, stabbing into the formation disc with lightning speed and destroying it then and there. In the next moment, the primordial god silk reached over and tied him up as well. All 7 protectors of the Earth Spirit sect had been tied up now. "Jianchen, release my seniors." Weiner Yen paled at the sight of this as he said through gritted teeth. Jianchen ignored his furious demands. However, at this moment, Jianchen's expression changed. Suddenly, he raised his head towards the sky. In the sky, the space rippled slightly. In the next moment, the Grand Imperial Protector of the Divine Kingdom of Pingtian appeared silently. "Jianchen, please let them go." The Grand Imperial Protector concealed his presence as he said to Jianchen in an approachable manner. The emotions in his eyes were slightly mixed. "Let them go." Jianchen's face sank when he heard that. He responded, "Imperial Protector, why don't you have a look at the city? They come wreaking havoc in my Dong'an province by abusing their statuses as protectors of the Earth Spirit sect. It was a perfectly good city, but now it has been reduced to a mess. Countless people have been injured, and they even said they wanted to destroy my Tianyuan clan. Is my Tianyuan clan really that easy to abuse?" The Grand Imperial Protector sighed. "Jianchen, you must also understand that the 7 of them aren't like the 3 overgods from the Empyrean demon cult. They can't just be killed like that. Moreover, our divine kingdom of Pingtian currently faces the threat of the Empyrean demon cult. At such a crucial time, we must focus on the big picture. We can't turn on ourselves at a time like this. Dealing with the Empyrean demon cult is our main objective. The 7 protectors have come to assist us in fending off the Empyrean demon cult." The Grand Imperial Protector tossed a space ring at Jianchen and said, "There are some divine crystals in there as well as quite a few healing pills. Just treat it as making up for the losses of the Dong'an province. Jianchen, just treat it as doing it for me. Let them go." You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.